June 25, 1983. Laura Serbin and her best friend Noelle Russo left their apartments on Avram Avenue in Rohnert Park, California, for a normal night of bar hopping and miscellaneous fun. Neither woman knew it at the time, but it would be the last time they ever saw each other. Noelle Russo Kinsey never came home that night, or ever again. Her body was found in Rohnert Park 48 hours after her disappearance, near Sonoma State University, 50 miles away from where she was last seen. Police deputies arrived at the scene to a heart-wrenching sight. Noelle Russo was naked, and her dead body was covered in bruises. Who could have done this? And how did she end up here? Known for its amazing parks, coffee shops, and unique urban and suburban feel, Rohnert Park is one of the most affluent cities in Sonoma County. Living here, you'll find a large community that loves nature and treasures the heritage of its historic city. With a population of 44,420, Rohnert Park has since grown from its modest size of 22,965 in the 80s. However, underneath its impressive surface, Rohnert Park has a dark side. The crime rate is 70% higher than in most states. That is why local law enforcement work very hard to keep the city safe. In 2023, their constant vigilance paid off. They caught a break that brought a close to the murder of Noelle Russo Kinsey. Noelle Russo Kinsey was born sometime in 1946 and grew up in San Mateo County, California. Russo first made headlines in 1962 at the age of 16, after being named Miss Burlingame. "I couldn't have been more surprised," she told the San Mateo Times. "I never in the world thought I'd win. I just entered to please Mother." According to the newspaper, Russo wanted to be a model. Her favorite sport as a kid was dancing the twist. Noelle graduated from Burlingame High School, and shortly after that, she had a son at the age of 19. She moved to Sonoma County in the 1970s and lived in an apartment on Avram Avenue with her son. He was 18 years old in 1983. Noelle married and divorced twice before her passing. Noelle worked as a forest ranger trainee in Colorado before enrolling at Santa Rosa Junior College in the Bay Area. She had plans to move to Boys Hot Spring around the time she disappeared. According to Dominique Espinoza, daughter of Laura Serbin, her mother thought Noelle was a beautiful person. Her eyes twinkled when she looked at her. I think her eyes just twinkled when she looked at her, like she just was such a beautiful person. Laura kept a picture of Noelle with her until her passing in 2019, and would often write about her friend. "It showed in my mom's writing that this was somebody she really cared about, and it just devastated her that she lost her." Noelle's family gave Laura a ring as a symbol of their close friendship after she passed. Noelle's other friends described her as talkative, forward, and always trying to make friends. She was also fearless. She hitchhiked and rode her bike often. On June 27th, a 7-year-old boy stumbled upon a sight that would change his life forever. He found a body behind his father's real estate office at Petaluma Hill Road and East Coast Katati Avenue, not far from the university. She was unclothed and on the ground with her body covered in bruises. A call was placed to the local sheriff's department, setting the wheels of justice into motion. Deputies raced to the scene after the call was placed, and shortly after, The body was identified as Noelle. The detectives of the Violent Crimes Investigation Department, or the VCI, were assigned to the case. They got to work immediately. The scene was preserved and all evidence was collected. Then the detectives began to knock on doors and piece together the circumstances surrounding Noelle's death. Noelle was in Santa Rosa on June 24, 1983, and that might have been the last time someone saw her alive. After a fight with her boyfriend earlier that day, Russo traveled down to Santa Rosa to see her best friend, Lauren Serbin. They like to bar hop a little bit, like everyone in the area, and having a little bit of fun. That was what they were doing the night she went missing, Dominique Espinosa said. They kind of like to bar hop a little bit and just, like anybody in the area, just have a little bit of fun and nuts. What they were doing the night that she went missing, they split up. She said that, Noelle may have been talking to an ex-boyfriend, but that she didn't think it was him that she, went off with, but somehow they got separated in the night, and then she couldn't get a hold of her the whole next day, and then they, of course, found her. After the night of fun, Lauren drove her friend to Courthouse Square to catch a bus back home to Roanoke Park. When she left, Lauren told her daughter that Noelle might have been with an ex-boyfriend. The investigators later revealed that Noelle never got on that bus that night. Police speculated that she may have hitchhiked back into town later that night with a stranger. In an autopsy, they determined that Noelle Russo Kinsey was beaten to death, likely by a piece of lumber from a pile stacked beside the real estate office. Due to her state of undress, there was also speculation that someone might have forced themselves onto Noelle before her death. In the days following the discovery, investigators hired a sketch artist to draw Russo Kinsey in the clothes she was last seen wearing on June 24, 1983, and circulated copies of it in hopes of finding leads. Detectives developed persons of interest, but no arrests were officially made. No doubt the unnamed boyfriend and ex-boyfriend were called in. There are local theories that these men and Russo were in an ill-fated entanglement that might have spurred jealousy and ultimately violence, but no arrests were made. Through the years, the police continued to investigate, but eventually, the case went cold in the late 90s. In 2010, 27 years after the death of Noelle Russo Kinsey, the detectives of the VCI started to submit forensic evidence for DNA analysis to the Santa Clara County Crime Lab and the Serological Research Institute. Both institutions had made it to the news circle by being instrumental in solving several cold cases. The Serological Research Institute, in particular, was crucial in solving the 25-year-old case of Michelle Marie Veal. The recent advances in chemistry and technology have allowed law enforcement officers all around the United States to take second and third swings at previously unsolved cases. So that is what the investigators of the VCI did. They made thorough use of the analytical skills of both crime labs, recollected DNA samples, and submitted other pieces of evidence up until 2023. The break in the case came when the crime labs positively identified one of the original persons of interest, Alfredo Caratoro Jr., as the chief suspect in Noelle Russo's murder based on DNA and other pieces of evidence. The statement released by the Sonoma County Police Department did not specify what DNA or material evidence led to that conclusion, but considering the speed of his arrest, it must have been damning. Born in 1958, Alfredo Caritoro Jr. of Lakeport, California, is no stranger to crime and violence. Much of the particulars of his life remain a mystery. However, what we are certain of is that he's been in and out of the justice system for a large part of his life. He was linked to a domestic civil case in September 1985, 2 years after Russo Kinsey's death. Later on in his life, Alfredo was convicted in Sonoma County for possession of stolen property and drug possessions in 1995 and 2001, respectively. Alfredo was only 25 years old at the time of Russo's death and was considered a key person of interest in the investigation. On Monday, October 2, 2023, Alfredo Caritoro Jr. was arrested and charged with the murder of Noel Russo Kinsey. In the official statement provided by the Sonoma Police Department through Facebook on October 3rd, they revealed very little about the connection between Alfredo and Russo. One of the original persons of interest, Alfredo Caritoro Jr., was positively identified as a suspect in Miss Russo's murder, based on DNA and other evidence. With no answers forthcoming, people have been left to speculate if or how Alfredo knew Russo. He might have been one of the two mysterious men said to have been emotionally tangled with Russo at the time of her death. Or he could have been a friend, a previous lover, a neighbor, or one of the two unnamed men that Miss Russo married in her short life. It's entirely possible Alfredo could have been the mysterious man who drove Miss Russo back home that fateful night of June 24, 1983. Whatever it was that they shared, it had put Russo into his orbit and allowed him to commit the heinous act. The Russo family was notified about the arrest shortly after it happened and have requested some privacy on the matter. To round the statement off, the sheriff's office urged their readers to contact the local office and reach out or submit an anonymous tip concerning the case or any other cold case. The outpour of support and joy was overwhelming. The people of Rohnert rejoiced at justice finally being served for Noel, whether they knew her personally or not. Alfredo Jr. was booked into the main adult detention facility in Sonoma County after his arrest, with no possibility of bail. He was arraigned before the Honorable Judge Laura Pasaglia on one count of murder. His public defendant, whose name has yet to be confirmed at this time, refused to comment on the situation. Alfredo Jr. returned to court on October 18th to plead his case. Whether he pleaded guilty or not to the murder of Noel Russo Kinsey is yet to be confirmed. After 40 long years of silence, the friends and families of Noel Russo Kinsey found the closure they'd been denied for so long. While no one from the Russo family has come forward to speak, Dominique Espinoza speaks for her mother Laura and the shared relief for the resolution of Noel's case. I'm grateful for the detective. I am grateful for Noel's family for not giving up. Even though they hadn't met, Dominique wanted them to know Noel touched many lives, and she's been thought of daily ever since what happened to her. I'm grateful for the detectives. I'm grateful for Noel's family for not giving up hope. And just to, even though we haven't met, letting Noel's family know that she touched many lives and that she's been thought of daily ever since this happened to her. The police have not come forward to comment on the situation. They had this to say on the matter. The Sonoma County Sheriff's Office and Sonoma County District Attorney's Office are both dedicated to justice for murder victims, whether the case is old or new. The VCI continues to investigate many cold cases. and relentlessly pursue justice for the victims of violent crimes. While nothing can change what happened to Noel Russo Kinsey, the people who love Noel take comfort in the fact that the man who was responsible was brought to justice. What do you think about the resolution of the case of Noel Russo Kinsey? Do you think justice will be served in the upcoming trial? While the story is still far from over, we want to hear how you think the court case will pan out. What evidence does the prosecution have up their sleeve? And will we finally discover if and how Noel knew Alfredo? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. On the morning of February 2nd, 2021, Zakiya Morris stopped by the Easter Seal Center Sylvan, East Atlanta, to drop off her children, 4-year-old Zahir and 6-month-old Ocean, at the start of a very busy day. Little did Zakiya know it would be the last time she saw her son. Under the care of a teacher, Ocean went down for a nap, but he never woke up. What happened to baby Ocean? And who is responsible? With a population of 751, Southwest Atlanta is one of Atlanta's smaller and more peaceful neighborhoods. Known for its parks, clean streets, and dog-loving people, it's a safe space for people looking to set down roots and move to a slower, relaxed pace. While Southwest Atlanta is in the suburbs, it doesn't mean you can't still have fun if you need to. There are nightclubs, restaurants, and other sorts of attractions for the eager and determined. The crime rate in Southwest Atlanta is practically non-existent. That is why it was more than a little surprising when news of baby Ocean broke. Ocean Carter was born sometime in August of 2020 to a single mother, Zakiya Morris. Zakiya chose to name her son after the ocean because she loved the water so much. And just like the water, Ocean was gentle and easygoing. 7 months into life, Ocean was weeks away from growing his first pair of teeth, and he was always smiling. He made it very easy to raise 3 children all by myself, Zakiya said. Her other son, Zahir, was a double amputee who required a great deal of affection and care. Being such a sweetheart, Ocean relieved some of the pressure his mother felt. Zakiya chose to enroll Ocean into Easter Seals because it was close, and she'd already enrolled his brother at the center. Zakiya trusted the teachers and staff of Easter Seals with her son, so why not her little bundle of joy, Ocean? On February 2nd, 2021, Stephanie Thompson looked up from her laptop that she'd been working on to feed 2 of the waking children under her care. One by one, the children continued to wake up from their nap, but she attended to them all easily enough. Everyone seemed to be up and about, except Ocean Morris. She'd put him to sleep earlier that day on her arm and set him on the boppy lounging pillow. He'd made some noise and raised his hand at some point, but now that Stephanie was in front of him, she noticed that he wasn't breathing. The entire daycare center scrambled in a panic. A 911 call was made, and a member of staff started CPR on the infant. Ocean was quickly transported to the emergency room, where he shortly passed on soon after. His mother was waiting outside the emergency room. The police arrived at the hospital to a somber sight, a grieving mother. Given the information available at the time, the police declared Ocean's death natural and put a close to the case. The case went cold and stayed that way until early 2023. It was when Zakiya received an email that changed everything. On April 26, 2023, 2 years after Ocean's passing, the Atlanta Homicide Office received a call from Zakiya Morris. She asked to speak to the investigator assigned to her son's case. She was connected to Detective Summer Benton, who reviewed Ocean's file again. The report listed the cause of death as natural causes, but Morris had stumbled upon information that could prove otherwise. Bright from the Start had mailed her a letter stating one of their teachers' actions was in direct violation of their safety policy and might have caused the death of her son. Bright from the Start is a government department that licenses and monitors daycare centers and all of the state-funded kindergarten schools. Zakiya forwarded the email to Detective Benton, and what the detective found changed everything. Following the events of February 2, 2021, Easter Seals was investigated and received a citation. A copy of said citation revealed that it had been issued on September 20, 2021. It was a mystery why Bright from the Start was just forwarding a copy of the citation to Miss Zakiya and never involved the police. But Detective Benton read on anyway. The citation was addressed to Easter Seals North Georgia CEO Donna Davis and daycare director Lena Barber. Quote, "The findings of the investigation substantiated that serious rule violations occurred, which jeopardized the health and safety of a child in care. Specifically, on February 2, 2021, there was a lack of supervision and a violation of safe sleep requirements when a 7-month-old infant was placed on a boppy pillow to sleep. Professional medical attention was required. Based on the facility's non-compliance with the rules, the license holder is hereby notified of the intent of Bright from the Start to impose an enforcement fine in the amount of $499. End quote. Given the implications of what she'd read, Detective Benton reached out to the Georgia Department of Early Care and Learning and Bright from the Start with an open records request for the incident. She also requested all training records for all teachers at the center and information on any other violations observed at the center. The pieces of the case fell into place once the requested documents arrived. Not only had Easter Seals unintentionally hidden crucial information that painted the events of February 2, 2021 in a different light, but it gave Detective Summer and other officers assigned to the case grounds to open a full-blown investigation. In the first round of interviews, they interviewed Stephanie Thompson and Jasmine King. Quickly, they established that Stephanie was their primary focus. She was the teacher assigned to take care of Ocean on the day of his passing. Aside from her now infamous name, much of Stephanie Thompson's life remains a mystery. She worked as a daycare teacher at the prestigious Easter Seals Center Sylvan on Melrose Drive in southwest Atlanta. She was also good at her job, given the amount of accolades the daycare has received over the years. From what we've seen of Stephanie, her biggest flaw was her inattentiveness. Perhaps if she'd been paying a little more attention to Ocean and followed protocol more strictly, Ocean's death could have been avoided altogether. She has no known spouse or family. All indications point to this as the first time she's ever committed a crime. Sometime in late June 2023, 2 years after baby Ocean passed, Stephanie Thompson was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and felony child cruelty charges. The officers revealed that the cause of death had been amended from natural causes to suffocation. In Stephanie's statement, she recounted the events leading up to Ocean's death, matching what we already know about February 2nd, 2021. After reviewing the training records and protocols, Detective Benton determined that not only did she use a non-approved material, the boppy pillow, she was also negligent and failed to follow standard protocols, despite receiving extensive training on infant sleeping safety in the past. According to protocol, infants should always be transferred to car seats or cribs immediately after they fall asleep. When questioned about why non-approved pillows were at the daycare center in the first place, Lena Barber, the director of the center, explained boppy pillows were great for sitting and playing when the children were awake. Months after the incident, the U.S. Consumer Safety Commission has confirmed that boppy pillows can cause suffocation. Certain boppy pillows were even recalled because they were responsible for the death of 10 other infants across the country. Over 3 million boppy pillows were recalled in total. It is unclear whether the model of the boppy pillow recalled is the same type that led to baby Ocean's death, but the evidence against Thompson was overwhelming. Detective Benton submitted a warrant requesting her arrest, detailing her findings. She noted that even though Miss Thompson didn't mean to harm Ocean, she was reckless and failed to supervise him while he was sleeping. Morris's attorney, Reginald Lewis, has gone on to say that the arrest wouldn't have happened if not for Zakiya Morris's never-give-up spirit. News of Stephanie Thompson's trial and imprisonment have been scarce. All that we're certain of at the time of writing is that she's been arrested and that the prosecution has an airtight case against Thompson. By her admission, she was careless with baby Ocean, and likely a few other infants, describing the time she spent distracted, ranging from 20 minutes to 1 hour. We expect her sentencing to be swift and just. After 2 long years of fighting for justice for young Ocean Carter, the family of Zakiya Morris found the closure they've been refused for so long. "I have more questions than answers," Zakiya said in an interview. "I was definitely relieved," Zakiya said, when she learned an arrest was going to be made for her son's case. "I thanked her a million times," Detective Summer. "I even called back like, is this real?" But then the moment passed, and she was reminded of how much she'd lost. While she was happy to finally start getting justice for Ocean, it didn't change the fact that he was gone. "I remember waiting to get results on what was going on. The doctor came in and told me that he passed away." Trusting others with her children is still a challenge for Zakiya, especially her new infant son, Royal. "At some point, I know I'll probably have to trust someone. But if I did, it'll be someone that I know." Although times are hard for Zakiya, her family and Ocean's memory force her to keep moving forward and fighting for her deceased son. Do you think Zakiya will find justice for her son, Ocean Carter? Does Stephanie Thompson deserve to spend the rest of her life in jail because of that one mistake? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. August 15, 1975. 8-year-old Gretchen Harrington embarked on a short walk from her home in Broomall, Pennsylvania, to her summer Bible school at the Trinity Chapel Christian Reformed Church. Though the church was just a brief stroll away, young Gretchen never arrived. A haunting revelation came 2 months later, on October 14, 1975, when skeletal remains were discovered in nearby Ridley Creek State Park, Pennsylvania. They were later identified as Gretchen's. What circumstances led to this horrific event? Who could have been involved in Gretchen's untimely demise? Broomall, Pennsylvania, a serene census-designated place in Marple Township, Delaware County, has a community of around 11,718 residents as of 2020. It's a locality where the lifestyle is presumably tranquil, given its small-town charm. The residents enjoy a low crime rate. Violent crimes are notably rare, with the rate being much lower than the national average, providing a safe environment for its inhabitants. However, the calmness was shattered with the tragic case of Gretchen Harrington in 1975, a cold case that still haunts the community to this day. Gretchen Eleanor Harrington entered the world on June 13, 1967, welcomed by her parents, Harold Boyd Harrington and Ina Harrington. Born into a religious household in Broomall, her father's role as a minister at a local Presbyterian church greatly influenced her early years. Growing up close to the church, nestled at the bottom of a hill, was comforting, with a strong sense of community. It was a simple, yet fulfilling life, surrounded by her two older sisters, Zoe and Harriet, who she shared countless joys with. What made Gretchen unique was her innate kindness that everyone around her could feel. She was the epitome of gentleness, a trait that made her beloved within her community. Her tender nature was like a soothing balm, making anyone's day brighter. In 1975, at the tender age of 8, she was already nurturing her love for learning, attending the 2nd grade at Delaware County Christian School in Newton Square. Her days were filled with the excitement of new discoveries, the comfort of a loving family, and the anticipation of the promising days that lay ahead. However, life had other plans. The ominous clouds of a looming misfortune were gathering, unbeknownst to the young soul whose life was tragically cut short. The days of innocence in the comforting routine of attending school, spending time with her family, and being enveloped in the warmth of her community were about to face an unforeseen and heart-wrenching halt. The Harrington family, who once reveled in the joys of their close-knit community, could have never imagined the storm that was silently brewing, ready to shatter their peaceful existence. In the story of Gretchen Harrington's disappearance, August 15, 1975, started like any regular summer day in the peaceful suburb of Maple Township. Gretchen, known for her kind spirit, left her home that morning for a day at summer Bible camp, an event split between two churches, a familiar and safe journey she typically shared with her sisters. However, that day, Gretchen walked alone. Her mother Ina had just welcomed a new baby, Jessica, and her sisters stayed home in anticipation of the new arrival. Her father Harold, a pastor himself, had always ensured his daughters attended the camp at Trinity Chapel Christian Reformed Church, aiming to maintain their perfect attendance. Despite the altered family routine, he encouraged Gretchen to go, watching her make her way up Lawrence Road before she vanished from his view, a parting image that would haunt him forever. The routine of children walking to school or play was commonplace, a testament to the suburb's safety and the innocence of the era. The community's trust was so implicit that the thought of any peril was distant. It was a time of unsupervised exploration, of creekside adventures, and of neighborhood games that stretched into the evening. when Gretchen failed to show up at Trinity Chapel by the expected time. Alarm bells didn't ring immediately. It wasn't until later that her father, struck by her absence and prompted by her friend's inquiries, sensed a disturbing irregularity. His subsequent call to Maggie Zanstra, the wife of Pastor David Zanstra and mother of Gretchen's best friend, only deepened the concern. Gretchen hadn't been seen at the camp. Without delay, Harold Harrington and David Zanstra reached out to the Marple Township Police Department, and the grim reality set in. Gretchen Harrington was missing. The days following Gretchen Harrington's disappearance saw Broomall, Pennsylvania transformed from a serene suburb into the epicenter of a frantic search. The community, once laid back, was gripped by a palpable tension as hundreds of volunteers, firefighters, and police officers with canine units canvassed the area. They trudged through fields, combed the woods, and traced the creek's banks, while a police helicopter buzzed overhead, all in a desperate bid to find the missing girl. But as the search extended into its second day, hope began to dwindle. Police Chief Daniel Hennessy faced the disheartening task of informing a local newspaper that they were utterly devoid of any leads. This candid admission sent a shiver through Marple Township, upending the community's sense of safety. Parents clutched their children closer, fear replacing the familiarity they once felt in letting their young ones roam free. In a bid to spark any form of lead, Gretchen's image, complete with her bright, tooth-missing smile, was printed on flyers and distributed to passing motorists. The lack of clues, however, fueled rampant speculation. Theories abounded. Had Gretchen run away, suffered an accident, or, more chillingly, been taken? As part of their investigative efforts, police spoke with David Zanstra, who had transported children to the church on the day Gretchen vanished. He confirmed he hadn't seen her that day. The return of Gretchen's sister to school cast a somber air among their classmates, who were at a loss for words. With traditional methods yielding no answers, the police turned to Judith Richardson Himes, a psychic known for her work on criminal cases. In a session with the police, she made a grim prediction that Gretchen was no longer alive, a statement she wished to be wrong. Approximately a month after Gretchen Harrington's disappearance, the tranquility of Ridley Creek State Park was shattered by a grim discovery. On October 14, 1975, a jogger exploring the less trodden paths of the park stumbled upon a harrowing scene. A decaying body, hidden amongst the forest's undergrowth. Initially uncertain of what lay before him, the jogger's doubts dissipated when he recognized a human fingernail among the remains. Realizing the severity of his find, he quickly contacted the police. The news of the discovery spread rapidly, reaching Gretchen's parents, who were brought in to help identify the remains. Amidst their profound grief, they confirmed the unthinkable. The clothing found with the body belonged to their daughter. The medical examiner corroborated this identification through dental records, and the Harringtons' worst fears were realized. The autopsy report brought more harrowing news. It concluded that Gretchen's death was a result of homicide, evidenced by multiple fractures on her skull, suggesting a severe beating. However, despite initial suspicions of abuse, the autopsy didn't provide any concrete evidence to support this hypothesis. In the days following the tragic confirmation, the community of Marple grappled with shock and sorrow. Harold, Gretchen's father, faced his congregation with a heart-wrenching sermon. He spoke of his daughter's unwavering faith, and how, though she was now free from the world's pains, her murderer remained bound by their heinous act. Gretchen's funeral, officiated by David Zanstra, was a somber affair, attended by a community united in grief. She was laid to rest in Meridian Line Cemetery in Johannesburg, Michigan. The discovery of Gretchen's body reignited the investigation with a renewed sense of urgency. Witnesses started coming forward, sharing observations of various individuals they had seen near the area where Gretchen's remains were found. These eyewitness reports provided descriptions of men who had been in the vicinity, sparking a flurry of tips from the community. Police pursued these leads with fervor, scrutinizing individuals with criminal records in the area, but to no avail. As time passed, the investigation slowed. The evidence box at the Marple Township Police Department, filled with interviews, photographs, and memoranda, began to gather dust. Detectives occasionally revisited the case, combing through the files in hopes of discovering a missed clue. But each review ended in frustration, with leads that invariably led to dead ends. Years turned into decades, and the investigation into Gretchen Harrington's disappearance and untimely death grew colder. For decades, the case of Gretchen Harrington's untimely demise lay dormant, with no significant leads or developments. The original detectives on the case had since retired or passed away, leaving the files to gather dust and the community with lingering questions. The silence around the case was deafening until an unexpected breakthrough. It occurred in the fall of 2022. A woman, choosing to remain anonymous to the public, reached out to the Marple Police Department with an offer to provide information regarding the decades-old case. At the time, Sergeant Nick Coffin was overseeing the cold case files, and this particular message landed directly in his lap. The woman believed she held knowledge about the person responsible for the tragedy that befell Gretchen. She also mentioned another incident, an attempted kidnapping that occurred around the same time as Gretchen's disappearance, which may have been related. This new development sparked a glimmer of hope in the otherwise stagnant case. The police, with renewed determination, arranged to interview the woman, referred to only by her initials, SF, to maintain her confidentiality. On January 2nd of 2023, the state troopers sat down with SF. The interview revealed that SF had been a schoolmate of Gretchen and her sister Zoe. She was also friends with the daughters of David Zanstra and had spent considerable time at their residence. SF shared a chilling account of her childhood experiences during sleepovers at the Zanstra home, where she woke up to find David Zanstra engaging in inappropriate behavior. After the second occurrence of such distressing conduct, SF told Zanstra's daughter, who seemed unsurprised by her father's actions, indicating it was not an isolated incident. In the wake of Gretchen's disappearance, the Zanstra family had moved away to Plano, Texas. SF had bravely informed her parents of her experiences shortly after the family's relocation. The interview also brought to light another potential lead. SF recalled a neighborhood girl named Holly, who had narrowly escaped an abduction attempt around the same period. SF's revelations were bolstered by a diary she kept as a child. In a poignant entry dated September 15, 1975, she detailed an account of a man attempting to kidnap her friend Holly, not once, but twice. In her diary, she referred to this man as Mr. Z, a veiled reference to David Zanstra, whom she suspected might be involved in Gretchen's disappearance. The information provided by SF added substantial depth to their investigation. With her diary entry as a new piece of evidence, the police were determined to pursue this lead. The investigation led them to David Zanstra, who is now 83 years old and living in Marietta, situated northwest of Atlanta, Georgia. David Zanstra, born in May of 1940 in Georgia, is an 83-year-old American with a past that casts a long shadow over his outward persona. His upbringing, like many aspects of his early life, remains a private affair, with little known about his parents or potential siblings. After completing high school, whose name is lost to time, he proceeded to a reputed university, further shrouding his educational background in mystery. Zanstra's adult life seemed to paint a picture of community service and spiritual leadership. He stood as a pastor, a role he stepped into on September 20th, 1965, when he was ordained. Throughout his career, he served various congregations across New Jersey, California, and Texas, before eventually retiring and settling in Marietta, Georgia. His long career in pastoral services provided him with a modest net worth estimated at around $1 million, a testament to his lifelong dedication to his vocation. On the personal front, David led a private life. He married Margaret Zanstra, and the couple is believed to have celebrated approximately 5 decades together. Their union produced a daughter named Mara Koning. The Zanstra family faced tragedy when David's grandchild, Joel Koning, passed away at the young age of 18 in 2010. Despite his standing in the community, troubling allegations have surfaced, casting a starkly different light on Zanstra. His connection to the Gretchen Harrington case, emerging decades later, suggests a complex character with a dichotomy between his public image and private actions. On July 17, 2023, a pivotal moment in the Gretchen Harrington case unfolded at the Cobb County Police Headquarters in Marietta. Pennsylvania troopers Andrew Martin and Eugene Trey led an interview with David Zanstra, approaching the conversation with a professional, yet somewhat friendly demeanor. Initially, Zanstra denied any involvement with Gretchen on the day of her disappearance. This is a 48-year-old cold case, as you know, where David Zanstra gave a statement to our wonderful state troopers, and that has led to his arrest today. However, the tone of the interview shifted dramatically when the troopers confronted him with the allegations and the diary entries from a woman recounting past assaults. As the interrogation progressed, the facade that Zanstra had maintained began to crumble. He broke down, revealing a disturbing series of events that occurred decades ago. Zanstra confessed. He had seen Gretchen walking toward the church on that fateful morning and offered her a ride in his green AMC Rambler station wagon. Gretchen, having no reason to suspect any ill intent, accepted the offer. The story took a dark turn as Zanstra admitted that instead of taking her to church, he drove her to a secluded wooded area. Once parked, he instructed Gretchen to undress, but she refused. In response to her refusal, Zanstra struck her, causing severe head injuries and bleeding. Realizing that Gretchen was dead, he attempted to hide her partially unclothed body with sticks and foliage before hastily leaving the scene. This confession by David Zanstra left the detectives stunned. This man is evil. He killed this poor 8-year-old girl he knew and who trusted him and then he acted as if he was a family friend, not only during her burial and the period after that, but for years. And he then moved on as a reverend, both to Texas and I believe in Georgia, trying to process the heinous nature of his actions. The revelation provided a tragic conclusion to a mystery that had haunted the community for nearly half a century. Following the chilling confession, David Zanstra was arrested on July 24, 2023. He faced numerous grave charges, including criminal homicide and first-degree murder, directly linked to his admission of causing Gretchen Harrington's death. The legal proceedings began promptly, and Zanstra found himself detained awaiting trial in a Georgia jail. In the aftermath of his arrest, law enforcement agencies delved deeper into Zanstra's past. The goal was to ascertain whether there were other children who might have suffered at his hands. This exploration was not just a procedural formality. It was imperative to uncover the full extent of his criminal activities and ensure justice for any and all victims. The Marple community, which had long awaited answers in this disappearance of Gretchen Harrington, was faced with a harsh truth. The closure of the case didn't bring the expected solace, for the perpetrator was not a stranger, but a familiar face, a religious leader, and a family man from within their own ranks. This revelation disturbed the town's peace, challenging their sense of trust and safety. In response to the case's developments, Gretchen's family expressed their thanks to the investigators for their unwavering efforts. They hoped for full accountability for the individual responsible for Gretchen's untimely death. Following David Zanstra's arrest, there was initial resistance from his legal team against extradition. But the Delaware County District Attorney, with support from Governor Josh Shapiro's office, worked to ensure his return to Pennsylvania. Presently, authorities are investigating whether Zanstra may have been involved in other instances of abuse. Moreover, a DNA sample taken from him may provide key evidence, not just in Gretchen's case, but potentially in other unsolved cases across the country. The community, while grappling with the shocking outcome, remains in contact with law enforcement as the broader implications of David Zanstra's actions are further explored. What do you think about the outcome of the Gretchen Harrington case? What kind of justice do you think David Zanstra deserved for his actions? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. On a warm, sunny afternoon, on August 18, 1993, a 12-year-old girl, Sarah Ann Wood, was riding her bicycle in Frankfort, New York. This seemingly routine bike ride would soon become a haunting tale that would capture the nation's attention. Sarah vanished into thin air, and chillingly, has never been found to this day. News of Sarah's sudden disappearance began to creep into the television screens of rural upstate New York, sending shockwaves through the community. Extensive research and investigations were launched to uncover the truth behind Sarah's disappearance, which lasted for 3 years and led to the identification of the culprit. As we get into the details of this mystery, we wonder, how did a young girl disappear so close to her home in broad daylight? What factors contributed to the inability to locate Sarah's body despite extensive efforts? This case takes us to Sequoia, New York, a small and peaceful community. This rural and peaceful haven is situated amidst friendly and welcoming locals. The area offers a range of outdoor activities, from fishing and hiking to camping and snowshoeing, ensuring there's always something fun to do. The crime rates here are moderate considering U.S. standards, which provide a sense of security to its residents. However, in 1993, this tight-knit community was shaken to its core when a 12-year-old resident was tragically abducted, leaving an enduring mark on this serene place. Sarah Ann Wood was born on March 4, 1981, in New York, to her parents Robert and Frances Wood. She was one of 3 children in the family, with 2 siblings named Dusty and Nikki. Her father, Robert, served as a pastor at Norwich Corners Presbyterian Church in the rural community of Sequoia, New York. The Wood family lived at 300 Hackadam Road in Sequoia, close to the church they attended. Sarah was a unique and a remarkable individual, described as intelligent, religious, and lively. She had a deep love for dancing and poetry. She was also known for her devotion to country musician Dolly Parton and her giving personality. People who knew her at school, like her teacher Nancy Weldick, remembered her as a cheerful and humorous girl who could make the whole class burst into laughter with her infectious giggles. She mentioned, "She was just the happiest little girl. The thing I remember most is that she would just giggle all the time. And she could get me laughing and get the whole class laughing. And I would literally have to turn around and think to myself, okay, I'm the teacher. Stop laughing at everything that comes out of her mouth." Sarah was full of life, with a bright future ahead. But tragically, fate had other plans. August 18, 1993 was just another routine day for Sarah. She left her home with a simple errand in mind: to visit her local church, Norwich Corners Church on Roberts Road, where her father served as pastor. This was less than half a mile from her family's house, and Sarah was attending summer Bible school there. Sarah collected some items from the church, including a display board, a church songbook, a Bible, and some school materials. After this, she began her journey back home, riding her pink and white 10-speed mountain bike. She was last seen at around 2:30 p.m., pedaling up a steep hill on Hackadam Road, very close to her house, about 0.4 of a mile away. Despite being so near to her home, Sarah never made it back. And tragically, she was never seen again. At the time of her disappearance, she was wearing a pink t-shirt with "Guess Who" embroidered on the front, turquoise blue shorts, brown sandals, and prescription glasses. Within an hour of Sarah's abduction, her parents, brother, and sister were deeply alarmed by her absence. Sarah's family knew her habits well, and when she didn't return home as expected, they rightfully grew concerned. She was known for being very responsible for her age, always informing her family of her plans in advance. When she didn't come home, they immediately realized that something had gone wrong. Without hesitation, they contacted the police and reported that she was missing later that afternoon. The 911 call set off a frantic search effort involving several hundred troopers and volunteer firefighters who combed through several dozen square miles of terrain. Later that evening, as family, friends, and law enforcement joined the search for the missing girl, they stumbled upon something in the bush near Hackadam Road. It was the scattered remnants of the supplies Sarah was seen with: a display board and a church songbook, left haphazardly on the ground. Her distinctive pink and white bike was also discovered, carefully leaning against a tree. These items were located just 100 feet from the road. Upon realizing that Sarah's belongings were found this way, it became apparent that something deeply concerning had occurred. Her family also took the initiative to search their neighborhood and distribute missing persons flyers. A further search of the area revealed her coloring book and crayons hidden in the bush near her bicycle. Investigators quickly concluded that Sarah had been transported from the site of her abduction in a vehicle. Over the following 5 days, both state police and forest rangers conducted an extensive search of the area where Sarah had disappeared, as well as other potential areas of interest. These efforts and widespread appeals for information and her safe return received significant media attention and public support through upstate New York. More than 1,000 leads were received, pursued, or dismissed, and a public reward fund for Sarah's safe return eventually reached over $150,000. The search was a collaborative effort with hundreds of community members actively involved, assisting the search and offering refreshments to the volunteers and investigators. Teal ribbons symbolizing Sarah's presence were also displayed in various public locations, a poignant reminder of the search's intensity and the community's unwavering determination to find her. Sarah's disappearance had jolted the whole country. The search efforts had transcended state boundaries and had extended to a national scale. People wanted to know if she was alive or dead. A makeshift headquarters named Rescue Sarah Center was also established, where all the information related to her search was being channeled. Thousands of missing persons posters featuring Sarah's face and details were circulated throughout the United States. Her abduction became the subject of appeals and updates on national television programs like 48 Hours and America's Most Wanted. Despite numerous leads and a nationwide outreach, the case inexplicably went cold. The lack of any substantial breakthroughs was primarily attributed to the fact that Sarah's body had not been discovered, leaving a void of crucial evidence that made it increasingly challenging to unravel the mystery surrounding her disappearance. After 3 years of extensive searching and investigation, a significant breakthrough in Sarah Ann Wood's case occurred when authorities turned their attention to Louis Stephen Lent Jr., a 45-year-old janitor from North Adams, Massachusetts. This development began in January of 1994, following an incident involving an attempted abduction of a 12-year-old girl named Rebecca Severis in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. In 1996, after 3 days of intensive interrogation, crucial information regarding Sarah's case came to light. Lent, although claiming to experience memory lapses and blackouts, shockingly confessed to the murder of 2 children. The first victim was 12-year-old James Bernardo, who had disappeared in Pittsfield, Massachusetts on October 22, 1990. The second, and most notably, was Sarah Ann Wood. This confession marked a pivotal turning point in the investigation into Sarah's disappearance. Louis Stephen Lent Jr. was born in 1950 in North Adams, Massachusetts. Not much is known about his childhood or his parents, but in his later years he worked as a janitor. His first criminal conviction was in January 1994. He was arrested for the kidnapping and assault of a 12-year-old girl named Rebecca Severis. Luckily, the abduction failed when she faked a severe asthma attack, allowing her to escape. During the search of Lentz's residence, authorities made a horrifying discovery. They found a secret chamber under his house that was still under construction. with a sinister purpose in mind. Lent confessed that he was building this hidden chamber with the sole intent of restraining and abusing future victims, primarily targeting females. He elaborated that his ideal victims would be young, between the ages of 12 and 17. The horrifying purpose of this chamber was to keep his victims confined before their eventual murder. It was designed for sinister acts, and the incomplete state of the chamber indicated that any victims he managed to kidnap in the meantime would be subjected to further abuse before meeting a tragic end. This disturbing revelation gave insight into the dark intentions and dangerous mindset of Louis Lent Jr., shedding light on the depths of his depravity. During his time in custody, Lent confessed to the murders of 2 children. His first victim was 12-year-old James Bernardo, who had disappeared from a movie theater in Pittsfield, Massachusetts on October 22, 1990. The second victim was Sarah Ann Wood. During the detailed interrogation of Lent after his confession, he detailed how he had abducted Sarah by using a knife to force her into his van, bound her hands, and drove her to the Adirondack Mountains, where he assaulted and eventually killed her with a heavy tree branch. He claimed to have buried her body, although he never checked to see if she was still alive beforehand. He provided authorities with a map of her alleged burial location. Lent's confessions were clouded by claims of memory lapses and blackouts, and there was debate and speculation about the veracity of his statements. Some suggested that he might have mental health issues influencing his confessions. Furthermore, it had been theorized that he might not have acted alone, potentially having an accomplice who helped him. The search began when Lent gave the location of Sarah. The entire operation lasted for over 2 weeks, engaging the combined forces of over 100 state troopers, numerous dedicated civilian volunteers, and more than 50 personnel from Griffith Air Force Base. This formidable search and rescue mission didn't spare any resources. Search and rescue dogs scoured the terrain, and heavy equipment was deployed in a collective endeavor to locate Sarah. The community rallied together, with many volunteers preparing meals, using donated food from local businesses and concerned individuals, ensuring that those on the front lines of the search had sustenance. Sarah's father also played his part, tirelessly transporting sandwiches, beverages, and excavation equipment from storage facilities to the search locations. Despite these extensive and heartfelt efforts, the search ultimately proved fruitless, leaving a void in the hearts of those involved and the entire community. Adding to the anguish, Louis Lent Jr. later claimed that Sarah had not been buried near Raquette Lake, but he refused to disclose the actual location of her remains. He disturbingly asserted that he had buried another victim's body close to Sarah's, with the intention of preventing it from being found. Louis Stephen Lent Jr. had already been sentenced for the attempted abduction of Rebecca Severies, serving a term between 17 and 20 years in MCI Walpole, which began on January 13, 1995. Upon his confession of the other 2 murders, his legal journey was marked by separate trials for each homicide. In an emotionally charged courtroom atmosphere, Lent's trials proceeded. In June 1996, he pleaded guilty to the abduction and murder of James Bernardo and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole on October 16th. Sarah's murder confession meant that he was convicted of her second-degree murder and was formally sentenced to a concurrent term of 25 years to life in prison by Judge Patrick Kirk on April 11, 1997. This sentencing was delayed for 2 months at the request of Sarah's parents, in the hope that Lent might be persuaded to reveal their daughter's resting place. In the months leading up to his sentencing, Lent rejected a plea bargain offer that would have spared him from serving his life sentence inside a state prison if he revealed Sarah's body's location. Despite final, heartfelt pleas from Sarah's family, and even recitation of Bible verses urging him to repent for his past actions, Lent remained silent. Sarah's brother, Dusty Wood, implored Lent to reveal the location of Sarah's body, reminding him that their faith sustained them and that he held no power over them. In the aftermath of Sarah's tragic disappearance, her family took action to keep her memory alive and to help other missing children and their families. The established Sarah Ann Wood Rescue Center later became the Mohawk Valley branch of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Sarah's story inspired her older brother Dusty and her father Robert to lead a group of cyclists on a journey from Utica, New York to the U.S. Capitol. This annual Ride for Missing Children event, where participants wear teal, pink, purple for police officers, and white for all missing children, has grown in scale. Thousands of cyclists now take part, raising funds for the NCMEC and shining a light not only on Sarah's case, but also on the hundreds of missing children across the nation. As of 2023, Sarah's body remains to be found. Her family continues to hold out hope that her remains will be found, allowing her to receive a Christian burial, close to her loved ones. This enduring hope underscores the unwavering love and commitment of Sarah's family in the face of an enduring mystery. Now, let's hear what you make of this case. In cases like Sarah's, where the body has not been found, what do you think can be done legally and ethically to ensure that families have a sense of closure and justice? How can communities better protect their children from individuals like Lewis Lent Jr.? And what improvements can be made in the justice system to ensure such cases are resolved with clarity? Your opinions matter to us. If you have any specific cases you'd like us to delve into, or if you found this case intriguing, please let us know in the comments below. To stay updated on more riveting, true crime stories, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We appreciate your support. Until our next encounter, take care and stay safe.
Hearing was originally continued from April 25th due to the suspect's lack of an attorney. Today, Supreme Court Judge Neil McCline went forward with the arraignment in a hearing that lasts less than 15 minutes.
On the night of April 29, 1982, 20-year-old Army Private Renee Dawn Blackmore vanished without a trace from Fort Benning, Georgia. A month later, her sweater and wallet surfaced in Cassetta, a short drive from Columbus, Georgia. On June 28, 1982, her remains were discovered close to a logging road a few miles further south in Chattahoochee County. Investigations revealed she'd been shot with a shotgun. Interestingly, her remains were uncovered just 4 days after the Army's reward offer for any leads on her disappearance. Yet who found her remains remains undisclosed. What led to Renee's grim fate? And who could have been responsible for her death? Chattahoochee County, nestled in Georgia, paints a quaint picture with its historical essence and military ties, yet holds a modest population of 9,565 folks as of 2020. This locale is known for its tranquil life, takes pride in its military roots with a significant portion of its land belonging to Fort Benning. While residents enjoy a peaceful lifestyle amidst natural beauty, the county's crime rate has moments of stirring, with stories like Renee Blackmore's cold case casting a long, unsettling shadow over this seemingly serene place. Born on May 5, 1962, in the quaint town of Wisconsin, Renee Dawn Blackmore was the cherished daughter of Frank Edward Blackmore and Donna Reitman. With roots tracing back to Bisbee, Arizona, where Frank was born on May 20, 1937, the family had a modest and private life. Renee had a path less trodden, serving as a young private in the U.S. Army, stationed at what was once Fort Benning, Georgia, now Fort Moore. Though much of her life remains veiled in mystery, her journey as a diligent soldier was a testament to her undying spirit. Yet unbeknownst to Renee and those who held her dear, the horizon held a tale that would leave a lasting imprint on the peaceful canvas of Chattahoochee County. Renee Dawn Blackmore was a soldier stationed at Fort Benning, Georgia, had a life that seemed to be on a regular, steady track until the day of April 29, 1982. That was the day everything changed, marking the beginning of a mysterious and tragic case that would remain unsolved for decades. On that fateful day, Blackmore was returning to her barracks from a town outside the military installation. She had likely been through a routine day, unaware of the ominous events that were about to unfold. Blackmore, being an Arizona native, was far from home, but had found a temporary residence and a sense of belonging at Fort Benning. The hours ticked by, and when Blackmore did not return to her barracks as expected, concern started to grow. As a result, the search began, and the search yielded a crucial piece of evidence when her motorcycle helmet was discovered. This discovery led to significant developments in the case. It was not long before the realization hit that Blackmore was missing. As the search expanded, it soon became a matter of grave concern and urgency. The local authorities were alerted, and the military police got involved, turning the situation into a full-fledged missing person case. The military installation, usually a place of order and discipline, was now clouded with uncertainty and fear for Blackmore's safety. A month after Blackmore's disappearance, a glimmer of hope appeared when her wallet and sweater were found a few miles from the army post. This discovery was a tangible connection to Blackmore, yet it also raised more questions than answers. Where was she? How did her belongings end up here? The case took an even darker turn when Blackmore's remains were found on June 28, 1982, near a logging road in Chattahoochee County, a few miles south of where her belongings had been discovered. The scene was grim, and it became clear that this was no ordinary missing persons case. It was now a homicide investigation. The investigators worked tirelessly, trying to piece together the events that led to Blackmore's death. The autopsy revealed that she had been killed by a shotgun blast, a dangerous and violent end to her young life. The authorities now had a murder on their hands, and they were determined to find the person responsible. Marcellus McCluster soon came into the picture, identified as a possible suspect in Blackmore's disappearance and slaying. What exactly caused police to suspect him was never revealed to the public. the focus shifted towards building a case against him, collecting evidence, and trying to understand the motive behind such a heinous act. However, despite their best efforts, the investigation eventually went cold. Years turned into decades, and the Renee Dawn Blackmore case became a haunting mystery. A tragic story of a young soldier whose life was cut short, and a killer who remained at large. The case suddenly also went cold. The Renee Dawn Blackmore case, unsolved for almost 40 years, gradually slipped from the public's mind, leaving unanswered questions and sorrow. Despite the passing of years, hope persisted, and in 2020, Vic Reynolds of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation reignited the case with a pivotal action. Recognizing the importance of revisiting cold cases and ensuring that justice wasn't indefinitely delayed, he set up a dedicated cold case unit. This unit was distinct. It was made up of retired investigators and seasoned professionals who had spent years delving into the complexities of criminal activities. Now, equipped with fresh eyes and modern forensic tools, the unit decided to revisit Blackmore's case. They didn't work in isolation. Collaboration was key, and they joined forces with the Army's Criminal Investigations Division, the Chattahoochee County Sheriff's Office, and the local district attorney's office. The combined expertise of these agencies ensured that every stone was turned, every lead was pursued, and every piece of evidence was re-examined. As they delved deeper into the files, a name that had popped up years ago resurfaced: Marcellus McCluster. Through their painstaking efforts, the unit managed to link McCluster to the deadly shooting of Blackmore. While the exact details of this connection remained closely guarded, Director Reynolds confirmed the association. It was a significant breakthrough, one that many had hoped for, but few expected after such a long time. However, it's worth noting that Director Reynolds chose to keep certain cards close to his chest. The specific evidence or the precise trail that led them to conclude McCluster's involvement in the murder wasn't disclosed to the public. Perhaps it was to protect the integrity of ongoing investigations, or maybe there were legal reasons for this discretion. Born in 1958, Marcellus's life is one that remains shrouded in mystery, with only fragments of information available. Marcellus hailed from the state of Georgia, but even though his early life and family ties are largely concealed, what stands out in stark contrast is the dark path he took in the early 1980s. During this period, he emerged as a suspected serial killer, leaving a trail of fear in his wake. McCluster's criminal endeavors began in earnest in 1982, the same year Renee Dawn Blackmore went missing. Although Renee's unfortunate end is one of the more prominent cases associated with McCluster, she wasn't his only victim. Marcellus's first confirmed victim, as records indicate, was indeed Renee Dawn Blackmore, who disappeared on April 29, 1982. The following year, in 1983, Major White, age 59, met a similar fate. He disappeared on January 4th and was found the very next day, also having been fatally shot. While these two victims were confirmed, Marcellus was also suspected of being involved in other heinous crimes. A list of potential victims includes Tanya Noel Nix, a 14-year-old who disappeared on June 18, 1981, and was later found strangled on December 26th of the same year. Similarly, 17-year-old Valerie Marie Sellers vanished on October 6, 1981, and her strangled body was discovered a few weeks later on October 24th. There's also the case of Wanda Faye Reddick, a 16-year-old who went missing on March 28, 1982, and was found just days later. The chilling pattern of these crimes paints a grim picture. While we might not know much about Marcellus's childhood behaviors, education, or personal relationships, the little we do know about his criminal history is deeply unsettling. It's possible that his personal struggles might have intertwined with his criminal activities, fueling his descent into darkness. Given the limited information available, it's challenging to understand what drove Marcellus McCluster to commit these crimes. Yet the impact of his actions on the lives of the victims and their families is undeniably profound. The wheels of justice, they say, grind slowly. And in the case of Renee Dawn Blackmore, the grind spanned across 4 long decades. The recent breakthrough in the case finally pointed fingers towards Marcellus McCluster, a name that was now familiar to those following the investigation. Yet there was an additional twist. McCluster was not a free man. At the age of 64, Marcellus McCluster was already behind bars, residing at a correctional facility near Augusta. His past was shadowed by a sinister crime. He was serving a life sentence for an unrelated murder conviction of Major White from 1983 in Stewart County. While the world outside moved on, McCluster's past came back to haunt him in the most unexpected way. As per reports while he was at the correctional facility, he was served with an arrest warrant for the murder of Renee Dawn Blackmore. This development was not just a revelation for those who had been awaiting justice for Renee, but also shed light on the magnitude of McCluster's alleged criminal history. The legal wheels started turning rapidly. Officials decided to press charges against McCluster, not just for the murder of Renee, but with a broader scope. He was charged with 1 count of malice murder and an additional 4 counts of felony murder. With these charges, the stage was set for another significant date, his arraignment. Scheduled for April 25, 2022, this was anticipated to be a monumental day. The arraignment would determine how McCluster would plead to the charges laid against him. Would he plead guilty? Or would he contest the charges? All eyes were on this day, waiting for another piece of the puzzle. However, the details of this particular day remained shrouded in mystery. The aftermath of the arraignment and what transpired within those courtroom walls have not been made public yet. For the followers of the case, the arrest and the subsequent legal actions were a mixed bag of emotions. On one side, there was hope. After all, a key suspect was already behind bars, and the legal process was in motion. On the other side, there was the weight of anticipation, the heavy weight to see how the case would unfold further. Would there be a full trial? Would more evidence emerge? And crucially, would Renee's family finally get the closure they had been yearning for? For 40 years, the unanswered questions surrounding the tragic loss of Renee Blackmore loomed large. A young wife on the cusp of her 21st birthday was unjustly taken away. As Kimberly Schwartz, the Assistant District Attorney for the Chattahoochee Judicial Circuit, pointed out, the impact of such a crime does not fade with time. Renee's potential, her dreams, relationships, and accomplishments all were taken away in an act of senseless violence. However, the resolution of this cold case has provided a glimmer of solace to Renee's family. Donna Reitman, Renee's mother, has carried the weight of her daughter's absence for all these years. In a heartfelt statement, she expressed the pain she felt, emphasizing how it felt as if the world had moved on, leaving behind the memory of her daughter. She said, "I have lived these 40 years always feeling the pain her absence causes. It often seemed as though no one outside of our immediate circle even cared. But the investigators did care, and their relentless efforts to bring justice to Renee is a testament to that. Their dedication to resolving this decades-long mystery serves as a powerful reminder. While time may move on, the quest for justice and the memories of those lost remain steadfast. Renee Blackmore's story will not be forgotten. And as the final chapter in this case closes, the family can now seek some peace, knowing that the world hasn't forgotten their beloved Renee. What are your thoughts on this long journey to justice? What do you believe could have changed the course of this investigation earlier? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Night in a murder that has made national headlines, a pastor's wife, a 28-year-old mom, pregnant with her second child, shot dead inside of her own home. November 10, 2015. An event unfolded on the northwest side of Indianapolis, Indiana. 28-year-old Amanda Grace Blackburn, who was 12 weeks pregnant with her second child, fell victim to a horrific crime. She was fatally shot in her residence at Sunnyfield Court, while her toddler son remained unharmed in the crib. As authorities examined the crime scene, lingering questions surfaced. Who could be behind this atrocious act? And was it somehow linked to other crimes in the neighborhood? Indianapolis is the state capital and most populated city in Indiana, with 887,642 residents as per the 2020 census. Its economy thrives on various sectors and is strongly influenced by multiple Fortune 500 companies. Located along the White River, the city offers a medley of recreational and historical spots, giving a taste of both culture, richness, and modern hustle. The people here are known for their hospitality, echoing the Heartland values. Yet every place has its shadows. The crime rate in Indianapolis has been a point of concern, with 42.5 crimes reported annually per 1,000 residents. Among those dark tales is the cold case of Amanda Blackburn, a stark reminder of the threats lurking in some corners. Amanda Grace Blackburn was born on July 31, 1987 in Muskegon, Michigan, to Phil and Robin Byers. The youngest of 3 children, Amanda grew up in a loving family and shared strong bonds with her sister Amber and brother James. Her education began in Indianapolis, but by 1995, the family had moved to Elkhart, Indiana. Amanda graduated from Elkhart Christian Academy in 2006 and went on to pursue an associate's degree at Pensacola Christian College in Florida. It was during her years in college that Amanda met the love of her life. She was only 18 when she met 20-year-old Davy Blackburn on a blind date orchestrated by a mutual friend. Their connection was undeniable, but wasn't without its challenges. Due to attending different colleges, they navigated a long-distance relationship for years, cherishing the school breaks that brought them together. Their shared faith was the cornerstone of their relationship. For Davy, Amanda was the irreplaceable piece that completed his life. And on August 1st, 2008, the couple celebrated their commitment to life by getting married. After marriage, the couple found themselves in South Carolina, where Davy was an assistant pastor at New Spring Church. However, the pull of their previous home was too strong, and by 2012, they were back in Indianapolis. Here they embarked on a new venture, establishing the Resonate Church, a place of worship and guidance for young individuals. Their family soon expanded with the arrival of their son, Weston, in 2014. Amanda embraced motherhood gracefully, putting all her focus on nurturing her son. When Amanda fell pregnant with their second child, the couple's joy was doubled. Unfortunately, their life was about to take a drastic turn, flipping the page to a chapter full of questions and sorrow. November 10th, 2015, began as a routine morning for Amanda and her husband Davy. At 6 a.m., Davy headed out to LA Fitness for his workout, leaving Amanda and their 15-month-old son Weston asleep at home. As per his normal habit, he left the front door unlocked. It was an hour later when Davy wrapped up his workout and started to drive home. He was on a phone call with a friend when he arrived home at 7:30 a.m. Opting not to disturb Amanda and their son, Davy decided to remain in his car in the driveway to finish up his conversation. As the morning sun cast its light, little did Davy know that his world was about to turn upside down. It was 8:20 a.m. by the time he got off the phone and made his way into the house. The scene he stumbled upon was nothing short of horrific. His beloved Amanda, only 28 at the time, lay face down on the living room floor. Her state of partial undress and the pool of blood surrounding her painted a gruesome picture. In a panic, Davy bolted upstairs to check on their son, and was relieved to find Weston unharmed in his crib. But this relief was short-lived, as the reality of Amanda's condition began to sink in. With trembling hands, Davy dialed 911 and reported the harrowing discovery. The morning had turned into a nightmare. The sanctuary of their home had been violated. The rooms that once echoed with laughter and joy were now shredded in dread and despair. As the news spread, a wave of shock and sorrow swept through the family, neighbors, and friends. Shortly after the 911 call, police and paramedics arrived at the harrowing scene, determined to find answers. Though Amanda was barely holding on to life, the medical personnel fought to resuscitate her, rushing her to the hospital in hopes of saving both her and her unborn child. Amid the chaos, the detectives began piecing together the sinister puzzle of what had happened at the Blackburn home. They quickly noted several things amiss: Amanda's wallet and credit cards scattered on the floor, a pack of Swisher Sweet cigars on the kitchen counter, and a decorative lamp knocked over near where Amanda lay, all signaling a struggle. The cigars were particularly odd, as neither Amanda nor Davy smoked. Since the front door had been unlocked, police knew that anyone could have gained entry into the house. Meanwhile, the medical team waged a war between life and death as they struggled to save Amanda. But her fight ended on November 11th, when she and her unborn baby girl, who was to be named Everett, were declared dead. The autopsy revealed the extent of violence she had suffered. She had been shot 3 times, in her arm, upper back, and the back side of her head. Aside from the gunshot wounds, she bore scratches on her left cheek, a split lip, and a knocked-out tooth. Back at the scene, meticulous searches and swabs for DNA were conducted, not only around Amanda's body, but across the house. Among the findings were a roll of duct tape, earphones, a bullet casing, and even loose change scattered on the floor. The caliber of the bullets was identified to be either a .38 caliber or a 9mm, hinting at the possible weapon used. Police also discovered an important clue on Amanda's cell phone. There was an email alert about a suspicious transaction on her Chase debit card carried out after Amanda had been attacked. This digital trace led detectives to a trail of ATM transactions, and they eventually found crucial surveillance footage that captured a suspect attempting to withdraw money, with a pink shirt wrapped around his face to conceal his identity. Simultaneously, reports of burglaries in the neighborhood created a pattern too conspicuous to ignore. That very morning, 2 other residents had reported break-ins, with one involving the theft of a Chrysler Sebring. This stolen car later emerged in the ATM surveillance footage. The similarities pointed towards a possible connection between the burglaries and Amanda's murder. Witnesses from the neighborhood reported seeing unfamiliar faces and a suspicious vehicle roaming around, cementing the theory of a possible burglary gone horribly wrong. The stolen Chrysler Sebring became a crucial link when that car was found abandoned a few miles from the Blackburn home. Inside the car were some of the stolen items, including a pink sweater that was reported as stolen from a nearby home in a break-in. There was also an ATM receipt of a denied transaction using Amanda's debit card. It was now clear to the police that the person behind the trail of local robberies and break-ins was the same person responsible for Amanda's murder. On November 15th, Amanda's anguished family and husband held a memorial service at Traders Point Christian Church for Amanda and her unborn daughter Everett. Over 2,000 people attended the funeral. In a news interview, her family shared that Christmas was Amanda's favorite time of the year, and now her family had to come to terms with her absence during the holiday. Davey said he couldn't understand why anyone might want to hurt Amanda. Fused we don't understand why. We're angry. Amanda didn't have an enemy in the world. I think what I would really want the world to know is that she loved Jesus with her whole heart. As the neighborhood grappled with the chilling reality of the young mother's death, investigators delved deeper in hopes of serving justice to Amanda. The breakthrough in Amanda's case came in the form of DNA, microscopic evidence that flung open the doors of hope. The pink sweater found in the stolen Chrysler Sebring contained unknown DNA that police believed would lead them to the killer. The DNA was tested using CODIS, the FBI's national database of convicts. The wait for results felt endless. But finally, on November 17th, the CODIS database returned a match. The DNA from the sweater belonged to a 21-year-old man, Jalen Watson. A look into Jalen's background revealed a familiar pattern. He had been released from prison on August 6th of that year, serving time for burglary. Now on parole, he was back on the radar for the worst possible reason. The detectives turned to social media to track Jalen's activity. Through Facebook, they found a connection between Jalen and a 24-year-old man named Deano Gordon. who too was on parole for burglary. The plot thickened as their phone numbers were traced for location data for the time of Amanda's murder. Using pings from their phone, the police put together a narrative of their movements on the morning of November 10th. At 4:40 a.m., around the time of the first robbery in the neighborhood, their phones pinged off the towers nearest to the first home. The pattern repeated with the second robbery, and again around the time Amanda was believed to have been murdered at 6:25 a.m. The digital footprints continued to the towers closest to the ATMs, where Amanda's stolen debit card was used at 6:39 a.m. and again at 6:54 a.m. The pings also aligned with the sightings of a suspicious person in the neighborhood that fateful morning, revealing a sinister crime spree that led them to Amanda's doorstep. The phone information also revealed that Jalen and Deanna had been communicating with a third person that morning, who was supposedly with them at the time of the crime. This was an 18-year-old man named Larry Taylor Jr. Larry Taylor Jr. emerged as a significant figure in the Amanda Blackburn case. Based on the information available, Larry had an unsettling teenage past that included misdemeanor charges, including an instance of public nudity and indecent exposure targeting a woman in a parking lot. On the night before the murder, Larry, Jalen, and Deanna were at an apartment belonging to Jalen's sister. They left the apartment at 3:30 a.m. on November 10th. Jalen's sister later shared with police that one of the three men had worn a dark vest that morning, which matched a witness's description. She also handed over a 9mm pistol that the men had left behind at her place. A confidential informant who had heard Larry talk about the events of that morning came forward to submit a statement. According to this informant, the trio's crime run had begun with burglaries, which soon escalated to something far more sinister. They first broke into an apartment, stealing a woman's cell phone and the car keys to her Chrysler Sebring. They then proceeded to rob another home in the neighborhood, finally ending up at Amanda's home. According to the informant, the trio had seen Amanda's husband Davey leave the house to head for the gym. Larry and Jalen decided to enter the home while Deanna waited in the stolen Chrysler Sebring. Events inside the home took a dark turn when Larry assaulted Amanda. He hit her and left her injured, while the trio drove to the nearby ATM to get more money using Amanda's debit cards. But when those attempts failed, they returned to the scene, where Larry fatally shot Amanda. He disclosed to Jalen and Deanna that he had shot Amanda to ensure she wouldn't identify them or report them to the police. The cell phone data, eyewitness accounts, and statements from the confidential informant corroborated the sequence of events, painting a chilling picture of why the pregnant Amanda had been shot in cold blood. On November 23, 2015, the police arrested Larry Taylor Jr., which marked a turning point in the case. Larry faced a total of 13 charges, which included murder, burglary, criminal confinement while armed with a deadly weapon, and robbery resulting in serious bodily injury. His accomplice, Jalen Watson, was charged with 10 offenses, including murder, burglary, robbery leading to serious bodily injury, and auto theft. The third accomplice, Deanna Gordon, was initially charged with burglary and theft, but as the investigation progressed, he too was charged with murder. But the dark trail didn't end there for Larry. It was revealed that he had allegedly been involved in other heinous crimes. On November 4th, a week prior to Amanda's murder, The body of 27-year-old Rolando Gonzalez Hernandez was found next to his car at his apartment complex, having been shot in the head. Witnesses recounted to authorities that Larry had bragged about robbing and shooting someone at the said apartment complex, describing his victim derogatorily based on his ethnicity. Larry disclosed to witnesses that the robbery had yielded him a mere $10 from Rolando's wallet. Another witness alleged that Larry had divulged information about breaking into a woman's home and assaulting her at gunpoint. While Amanda was found in a state of partial undress, investigators were unable to find conclusive evidence of assault, so Larry wasn't charged with any assault-related offenses in Amanda's case. The legal proceedings to bring Larry and his accomplices to justice were far from swift. It took 2 to 3 years of legal maneuvering to prepare for trial. Eventually, Deano and Jalen agreed to plea deals, which required them to testify against Larry in his bench trial. This agreement led to the dropping of murder charges against them. Larry Taylor Jr.'s first trial for Amanda's murder was slated for December of 2021. However, a peculiar scenario unfolded during the trial. His defense attorney managed to convince the court to exclude the information about Amanda's unborn child from the jury, despite the fact that initially Larry had been charged for the baby's death as well. During the trial, the jurors somehow found out about Amanda's pregnancy, leading the judge to declare a mistrial, fearing it could stir extra sympathy from the jury. A second trial was then arranged for June of 2022. But yet another hiccup occurred. Some jurors had learned about the first mistrial and were discussing it among themselves. This led to another mistrial declaration and more delays. The third attempt to try Larry for Amanda's murder was set for October 2022. This time, the prosecution built their case on the testimonies from Deano and Jalen, cell phone data, and other witness accounts. The trial proceeded without any more unforeseen disclosures, and that same year, a verdict was reached. Larry Taylor Jr. was found guilty on multiple charges including murder, burglary, theft, criminal confinement, auto theft, and carrying a handgun without a license. The court handed him a sentence of 86 years. Jalen Watson initially received a sentence of 29 years in prison, but after he testified against Larry, he got a reduced 10-year sentence. Deano Gordon was originally sentenced to 30 years, but later got a reduced 10-year sentence for testifying against Larry as well. The sentencing of all 3 convicts provided much-needed closure to the long and tumultuous legal journey to bring justice to Amanda Blackburn. The closure of Amanda's case brought a semblance of solace to her grieving family. Following the verdict, Amanda's father, Phil Byers, expressed gratitude, stating, "We're grateful for the verdict, but we have been trusting in both the Lord and the system." Addressing the perpetrator, he voiced his anguish. "Shame on you. You've taken something very dear to us, without cause." He also shared his faith. Amanda's husband, Davy Blackburn, also reflected on the closure, saying, "I feel very relieved. It's always a relief to know the truth. It's been a long journey for our family." Davy is currently raising their son, Weston, and has reportedly remarried 2 years after Amanda's death. The sentiments reflect a family rooted in faith, finding solace and strength through their beliefs while navigating the painful journey toward justice and closure. So what do you think we can do as a society to prevent the kind of crime that claimed Amanda Blackburn's life? Do you think the sentences given to the culprits were adequate? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. On the night of Barbara Villarreal's murder, police say the couple had gone out to eat and came back to their North Garland home. But at the time, they were not alone. Detectives say Laborio Canales was there the night Villarreal died and is responsible for the brutal stabbing of his sister-in-law. November 7, 1986, 27-year-old Barbara Villarreal was found dead in her apartment on Colbeth Street, Garland, Texas. It was her husband, Domingo Diaz Villarreal, who first came upon the scene and urgently sought help from neighbors to contact the police. The police reported that Barbara had suffered multiple stab wounds with a large kitchen knife found close to her body. Who was responsible for this heinous crime? And how was the mystery of Barbara Villarreal's untimely death finally unraveled? Garland, Texas is a suburb of Dallas and home to about 245,075 residents. Known for its numerous coffee shops and parks, Garland attracts many families and young professionals, offering a lifestyle that combines both modern conveniences and a touch of nature. The population is diverse, tending towards liberal views, and the public schools are highly rated, contributing to its family-friendly atmosphere. However, Garland has a crime rate graded at C, indicating some challenges in this area. This context frames the unfortunate event of the Barbara Villarreal cold case, a notable incident in Garland's history. Barbara Faye Villarreal's story begins in the small town of Peru, Indiana, where she was born on December 23, 1958. Her early years were spent in the nearby rural community of 12 Mile, nestled in the heartland of America. Barbara was the youngest child of her 4 siblings from her mother's first marriage, and she wasn't often called Barb or Barbie. Tragedy struck early when her father passed away, leaving a young Barbara and her siblings, Kathy, Deborah, often called Deb, and Mark, in their mother's care. Her mother later remarried, expanding the family with 2 more children. Growing up in the countryside, Barbara's childhood was simple, yet filled with joy. Kathy Browning, one of her older sisters, reminisced about their younger days, painting a picture of a life filled with small-town pleasures. They would ride their bicycles to their grandparents' corner store, a haven for children where they indulged in candy. Their days were also spent fishing and swimming in a nearby pond, typical of a carefree rural upbringing. Sundays and holidays were special, reserved for gatherings with their extended family, which included a close-knit group of cousins. Despite their reserved nature, Barbara and her family cherished deep and meaningful relationships. As Kathy put it, they might not have had a wide circle of friends, but the connections they did have were profound and loyal. This trait of forming deep bonds was something Barbara carried with her throughout her life. On February 25, 1979, at the age of 20, Barbara's life took a significant turn when she married Domingo Diaz Villarreal. By 27, she had established herself in the accounting department of DeGoyler and McNaughton, a reputable oil consulting firm in Dallas, Texas. Barbara and Domingo made their home in the 3600 block of Colbeth Street in Garland, Texas, a city known for its community spirit and diverse population. It was right there in Dallas she met a woman named Lessa Nugent. Lessa was a fellow colleague in Barbara's workplace, and ever since they met, they became best of friends. The 2 women, working in different departments, formed a bond over daily lunch breaks and shared experiences. Barbara, who often missed her family ever since she left them to live with Domingo, found a sense of belonging and friendship in Lessa. Lessa finally remembered Barbara as a sweet, kind, and intelligent person, a friend who left an indelible mark on her life. Their friendship was a testament to Barbara's ability to form deep and lasting relationships, a trait she had nurtured since childhood. Barbara's untimely death left a void in the lives of those who knew her. Her family and friends, however, have kept her memory alive in various ways. They continued to cook recipes she loved and shared with them, preserving a part of her in their daily lives. In a touching tribute, her niece named her daughter with a middle name starting with B in honor of Barbara. Even her beloved Pomeranian Cammy, who was adopted by another family after Barbara's death, remains a cherished connection to her. For 37 years, Barbara's family has cherished photographs and memories stored away in boxes. Among their treasured items are a newspaper clipping of a young Barbara and her sister Kathy winning a 4-H talent show, a group photo from her high school graduation where she wore a silky yellow cap and gown, her signature large framed glasses, and a wide, joyful smile. They also hold dear an autograph from Patrick Duffy, the actor from her favorite TV show Dallas. While her family focused on these happier times, the Garland police detectives diligently worked through files and notes, searching for any new information that could lead them to the person responsible for Barbara's untimely death. On November 7, 1986, a typical day in Garland was shattered by a horrific event that would leave a lasting impact on the community. Barbara Villarreal, known for her kind and gentle nature, usually stuck to a typical daily routine. However, this day would tragically deviate from the norm. Domingo was home on that fateful evening when he heard his wife scream from another room. Rushing to her aid, he was met with a scene of chaos and horror. Barbara was being attacked by armed intruders. Despite Domingo's arrival, the assailants managed to flee, but not before inflicting severe and ultimately fatal wounds on Barbara. In a state of shock and desperation, Domingo turned to his neighbors for help. At approximately 8:52 p.m., he implored a neighbor to call the police, conveying that something was terribly wrong with Barbara. The urgency and fear in his voice were palpable, a clear indication of the gravity of the situation. Emergency services responded swiftly to the call. Upon their arrival, they found Barbara seriously injured. Despite their efforts, the situation was beyond help. Barbara was pronounced dead at 9:50 p.m., a devastating conclusion to what had started out as an ordinary day. The aftermath of the discovery was a whirlwind of confusion and grief. The neighborhood, typically a peaceful area in Garland, was now the center of a tragic crime scene. Domingo, in a state of shock, struggled to process the loss of his wife. Neighbors who knew Barbara as a cool and friendly individual were all shocked when they heard about her death. The investigation into Barbara's death revealed chilling details. The medical examiner found multiple stab wounds across her body, indicating a violent struggle. It was determined that Barbara had been dead for over an hour before she was officially pronounced deceased. This revelation only added more tragedy to the already unexpected event that happened. The nature and extent of her injuries led authorities to rule her death a homicide, a conclusion that sent ripples of fear and sadness through the community. Barbara's untimely and cold-blooded death left many questions unanswered. Who were the intruders? What was their motive? How could such a violent act occur in a community known for its safety and camaraderie? These questions would haunt Domingo, Barbara's family, friends, and neighbors in the days, months, and years following the tragic incident. Her death not only left a void in the hearts of those who knew her, but also a sense of vulnerability and fear in a community that had always felt safe. The investigation into Barbara Villarreal's murder was a complex and challenging endeavor that began immediately after the crime was reported. The Garland Police Department, faced with a case that had shaken the community to its core, embarked on a meticulous search for answers. After the tragedy, Barbara's neighborhood, which was once peaceful, became enveloped with fear. The residents felt unsettled as they grappled with the reality of a crime that happened in their community. The community support for Domingo and Barbara's family was unwavering, as friends and neighbors came together to offer condolences and assistance. The initial phase of the investigation focused on gathering evidence from the crime scene. One of the first breakthroughs was the discovery of blood found outside the Villarreal's home. Testing revealed that this blood did not belong to either Barbara or Domingo, adding a layer of complexity to the case. This finding suggested the involvement of an outsider, but the question of who that could be remained unanswered. As the investigation continued, the detectives began to examine information provided by people closer to Barbara and her husband Domingo. Something about his version of events raised doubts among the investigators. Their suspicions were further fueled by inconsistencies in his statements. This led to a dramatic turn in the investigation when Domingo was arrested on suspicion of his wife's murder. The arrest of Domingo sent shockwaves through the community. The thought that someone so close to Barbara could be responsible for her death was difficult for many to comprehend. However, this suspicion was short-lived. After a series of examinations and investigations, Domingo was acquitted of involvement in his wife's death. With Domingo no longer a suspect, the case hit a dead end. The police, despite their best efforts, were unable to uncover any new leads. In a bid to find the perpetrator, they collected DNA evidence from the crime scene and entered it into CODIS, the United States National DNA Database. This was a hopeful step towards finding a match that could reveal Barbara's killer to them. However, as time passed, the case grew colder. The lack of new evidence or leads meant that the investigation stalled. The mystery of who was responsible for Barbara's murder remained unsolved, leaving her family and friends without closure. 37 years later, Barbara's cold case murder finally saw a breakthrough, which was the result of the advancement in forensic technology. For years, the DNA evidence collected from the crime scene lay dormant in the CODIS database, with no matches found. This lack of progress in the case was a source of continual frustration and sorrow for Barbara's family and the Garland community. However, the relentless pursuit of justice by the investigators eventually paid off. With the advent of new DNA technology, a fresh review of the evidence was conducted. This review brought light to a startling revelation that would change the course of the investigation. The investigators found that Barbara's husband, Domingo, had been living under the pretense of a false name. His real name was revealed to be Jesus Canales. This revelation opened new avenues in the investigation and shifted the focus to his family members. The DNA typing of the original blood sample found at the crime scene led investigators to a new suspect, Liborio Canales, the brother of Jesus. While Jesus had passed away in Mexico in the 1990s, Liborio was still alive. This discovery was a significant breakthrough in the case, providing a new direction for the investigation. The revelation that Domingo Villarreal was actually Jesus Canales and the subsequent identification of Liborio Canales as a suspect were crucial in unraveling the mystery that had baffled the Garland Police Department for nearly 4 decades. Liborio Canales, born on the 23rd of June 1937, emerged as a key figure in the cold case of Barbara Villarreal's murder. Much of his early life remains shrouded in mystery, with no details about his parents or his upbringing. His connection to the case was unexpected, revealing a complex web of family ties and hidden identities. Liborio, the brother of Domingo Villarreal, who was later discovered to be Jesus Canales, led a life that largely stayed out of the public eye. Information about his education, career, or personal life, including marriage or children, is not widely known, adding to the enigmatic nature of his character. After Barbara's murder, Liborio reportedly moved to Mexico, distancing himself from the events that unfolded in Garland. This move shortly after the crime was a detail that would later become significant in their investigation. Additionally, police reports indicated that he sometimes resided in a home in Lovington, New Mexico, suggesting a life that oscillated between 2 countries. The revelation of Liborio as a suspect in Barbara's murder brought a new dimension to the case. The lack of a known criminal history only added to the complexity of his character, presenting a figure who had managed to evade the spotlight for decades. As the investigation continued, the focus on Liborio Canales intensified. The Garland community, still reeling from the shock of Barbara's murder, now faced the reality of a perpetrator who had been hiding in plain sight. The revelation of his identity and his subsequent implication in the crime brought a mix of emotions, from disbelief to a renewed hope for justice. On July 18, 2023, a significant development occurred in the long-standing cold case of Barbara Villarreal's murder. Liborio Canales, the man identified as the primary suspect, was arrested in Lovington, New Mexico. This arrest came at a poignant moment, as Canales had just crossed the Mexico border to celebrate his birthday with family members. Liborio Canales' arrest brought about a turning point in Barbara's unsolved death case. His apprehension was the result of persistent investigative work and advancements in forensic technology, which together had finally led the authorities to him. During the interrogation, Canales made a startling confession. He confessed to be responsible for the killing of Barbara and revealed his shocking motives. According to his confession, the murder stemmed from a long-standing family dispute, which in turn led to Barbara's murder. And after he spilled the beans, the court wasn't messing around. They set his bail at a whopping $1 million. It showed how serious they took it, especially since it was a major turn in the case. The next step in the legal process was the extradition of Canales to Texas, where the crime had occurred. This move was expected to happen in the coming days of the month he was arrested, making the beginning of a new chapter in the pursuit of justice for Barbara Villarreal. The closure of Barbara Villarreal's cold case brought a complex mix of emotions to those involved. While the motive behind Liborio Canales' actions remains somewhat unclear, Garland police indicated that it was rooted in a family dispute. He did admit to his involvement, and he did tell us that he came to Garland and that he committed this offense. This detail, though not fully elaborated upon, provided a crucial piece in understanding the tragic events that unfolded. Detective Lucas Shoup of the Garland Police Department, who revisited Villarreal's case in late 2019 or early 2020, expressed a sense of surreal achievement in making the arrest after so many years. His sentiment echoed a broader commitment within law enforcement to persist in solving cold cases, striving to bring some form of closure to affected families. For the Villarreal family, the arrest of Laborio Canales did bring a degree of closure. Mark Dunderman, Barbara's younger brother, acknowledged this, though he also noted that it couldn't undo the past. His words captured the enduring impact of the loss. It doesn't fix what happened, but it does give us enough so at least we don't walk through life with questions anymore.
It doesn't really change anything, though. We still don't have our sister. So it didn't change anything, but it's nice to have closure.
This sentiment reflected a bittersweet resolution, where answers provided some solace, but the pain of loss remained. The family, including Barbara's 92-year-old mother, now awaited the next steps in the justice system. This phase was about more than just legal proceedings. It was about finding a sense of peace and finality in a saga that had spanned decades. What are your thoughts on the way this case was resolved after decades? Do you think justice was truly served? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
A 20-year-old murder case, and now the suspect's been indicted. So Robert Stewart was arrested for the death of Herman Brown. Ken Brown is live at the alert desk and has the latest on this case and also what prosecutors are saying led to the arrest.
On February 15, 2003, the Cincinnati police received a call about a strange smell at an apartment on Sarvis Court. When they entered, they were shocked to find a lifeless, naked body on the floor, covered in many stab wounds. This unfortunate victim was 46-year-old Herman Brown. The hunt for justice began, but the person responsible remained hidden for 2 whole decades. It wasn't until 2023 that a breakthrough, the use of cutting-edge DNA technology and relentless detective work, finally revealed the truth, leading to the arrest of a suspect who thought he'd gotten away with murder for over 20 years. But why did it take 2 long decades to solve this crime and apprehend the suspect? Was it a random act of violence, or was it a carefully planned crime? Cincinnati, which folks often call the Queen City, sits in the southwest part of Ohio, huddled on the hilly shores of the Ohio River. On the opposite side, you've got Covington and Newport, Kentucky. Cincinnati is a big deal in the region, both financially and culturally. It's the heart of the Cincinnati metropolitan area and Ohio's 3rd largest city, with a population of around 2,265,051 people. It's a mix of city and suburbs, and most folks here rent their homes. The place is buzzing with bars, restaurants, coffee joints, and green spaces. It's easy on the wallet, has great neighborhoods, job opportunities, schools, and tons of sports action. Families find it especially welcoming, and it is in this neighborhood that our story takes us today. Herman Brown was born on February 2, 1957. There is not much known about his early life, nor his family. But it's Cincinnati, specifically the Westwood neighborhood, that he called home. Beyond the tragic circumstances surrounding his murder at the age of 46, it's important that we remember him as someone's friend, perhaps a family member, and a member of the Cincinnati community. As we reflect on his life, let's focus not on the crime, but on the essence of who he was. A human being with a story of his own, experiences and connections. Though the details may be sparse, his memory endures in the hearts of those who knew him. On the cold day of February 15, 2003, the Cincinnati Police Department received a troubling call that set a grim series of events in motion. The caller, deeply concerned, dialed 911 to report a noxious and unpleasant odor emanating from an apartment located at 2572 Sarvis Court. In response to this distressing call, officers were dispatched with the expectation of conducting a routine welfare check. Little did they know that what awaited them would be far from ordinary. As they entered the apartment, a scene of horror unfolded before them. Herman Brown, lifeless, lay unclothed on the apartment floor. The distressing sight was compounded by the presence of multiple stab wounds on Mr. Brown's body, and the discovery of an extension cord tightly wound around his neck, hinting at a sinister struggle for survival. Further investigation only deepened the mystery. Traces of blood in the bathroom sink suggested either a desperate attempt to clean up the aftermath of this heinous act, or a grim struggle had taken place within those walls. It was a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the most unexpected places, and the pressing need for justice in the face of such a tragedy. Following their entry into the apartment, the chilling discovery of Herman Brown's lifeless body left investigators and Melissa Powers, the prosecutor, deeply disturbed. As they combed through the apartment, investigators unearthed several key pieces of evidence, all of which would become crucial in their pursuit of justice. Among these findings were 6 cigarette butts, a DNA swab obtained from Mr. Brown's genitals, and a sample of blood collected from the bathroom sink. Melissa Powers shared that analysis of this evidence revealed the presence of 2 distinct DNA profiles, one belonging to Herman Brown, and the other belonging to an unidentified individual. Despite their exhaustive efforts, investigators were confronted with an unsettling challenge. The unknown DNA profile defied matching to any known person in their extensive database. In the face of such tangible evidence, the frustration of investigators grew as days turned into months and months into years. Leads that once held promise began to wither away, and the case, like many others before it, grew cold. The hopes of resolving the mysterious and heinous crime that had unfolded within those apartment walls seemed to dim with each passing day. And like so many others, this case also went cold. Hamilton County Prosecutor Melissa Powers expressed unwavering confidence in the tireless dedication of the investigators, affirming these dedicated detectives never give up on their cases. They never give up on their victims. They will continue to investigate until the case is solved, no matter how long it takes. Back in 2003, during the investigation of the crime, they exhausted all avenues in the investigation, from witnesses, testing people, friends and family, and and they could never come up with a match on the DNA. It wasn't until about 3 years ago they submitted that sample to the genealogy website and was able to come back with a hit. The statement from Melissa Powers, prosecutor of Hamilton County, illustrated the unyielding spirit of those who sought to bring justice to this long, cold case. Their persistence in the face of adversity, coupled with the emergence of renewed hope, set the stage for a remarkable turn of events that would finally break the silence surrounding the case. Her resolute words would eventually prove prophetic, as a glimmer of hope emerged 2 decades later, rekindling the pursuit of justice. In a groundbreaking turn of events, the Cincinnati police made history by employing cutting-edge DNA technology to resolve a homicide case that had remained unsolved for decades. Detective Jeff Smallwood led the charge, using forensic genetic genealogy as the key to unlocking the 2003 Herman Brown murder case. This marked the third instance of their innovative approach, having previously harnessed this new DNA comparison system to solve 2 assault cases. Smallwood emphasized that in the eyes of law enforcement, every case, whether it happened yesterday or 2 decades ago, holds equal importance. The power of genetic genealogy testing lies in its ability to process DNA collected from a crime scene at specialized laboratories, which require much smaller samples than previous methods. This DNA can then be compared against publicly available genealogy databases, potentially uncovering suspects who may not be listed in traditional law enforcement records. This advanced technology allowed investigators to cast a wider net and connect with individuals who had previously evaded contact with the law enforcement system. Once the DNA samples were returned from the labs, the painstaking task of solving the puzzle began. Spearheaded by dedicated officers in the real-time crime unit, such as Heather Sadler and Chad Copey. Sadler described the investigation process as akin to solving a complex puzzle, with each piece representing a relative of the DNA sample from the genealogy database, which might contain hundreds of potential names. Each of these individuals could potentially be the perpetrator, and thus traditional police work was required to narrow down the list of potential suspects. However, the genealogy technology provided a valuable tool for pinpointing and identifying potential culprits. The ultimate goal was to obtain a DNA sample for a 1-to-1 comparison, ensuring a 100% match between the evidence and the suspect. Copey stressed that although the process could be demanding and challenging, the department remained unwavering in its commitment, even in cold cases, because there were still victims in desperate need of justice. He emphasized the emotional aspect of the work, emphasizing that behind each case were families who longed for answers and closure. The decision to revisit the Herman Brown case was full of hope. Investigators re-extracted the unidentified DNA profile, this time focusing on the DNA found on the cigarette butts. This material was subjected to a forensic genetic genealogy search. This groundbreaking process has breathed new life into cold case investigations in recent years. This method led them to a potential suspect, Robert Stewart. The process of confirming this lead extended further, with detailed analysis providing unequivocal verification that Robert Stewart was indeed the source of the DNA discovered at the crime scene. With Robert Stewart firmly identified as the primary suspect, the wheels of justice began to turn swiftly. The diligent efforts of law enforcement culminated in his arrest, which took place in Lima, Ohio, on September 15, 2023. Robert Stewart was charged with murder and felonious assault for the 2003 death of Herman Brown. The charges brought against Stewart included 2 counts of murder and an additional count of felonious assault directly related to the tragic demise of Herman Brown. Following his apprehension, the legal process wasted no time in serving justice. He now resides within the confines of the Hamilton County Justice Center. His bond was established at a substantial $500,000, underscoring the gravity of the charges he faces. As the case progresses, it serves as a poignant reminder that justice, though delayed, remains resolute in its pursuit of truth and closure for the victims and their grieving families. After more than 20 years of uncertainty and heartbreak, there is finally a glimmer of hope for the family of Herman Brown. While the arrest of Robert Stewart couldn't bring their loved one back, it offered a semblance of closure. The burden of loss, which they had borne for so many years, began to feel a little lighter. Detective Jeff Smallwood, a driving force behind the relentless pursuit of justice, emphasized the significance of this closure, saying, "It is really about that peace of mind. Knowing that the person that's in line next to you at Kroger isn't the person that did something to you 20 years ago." Hamilton County Prosecutor Melissa Powers expressed her gratitude to the Cincinnati Police Homicide Unit for their unwavering dedication. She acknowledged their commitment to never giving up on the victims or their cases, no matter how much time passed. The advent of genealogy databases has proved to be a powerful tool, breathing life into cold cases that had remained unresolved for years. In her words, "The Cincinnati Police Homicide Unit should be commended. These dedicated detectives never give up their cases. They never give up on their victims. They will continue to investigate until the case is solved, no matter how long it takes." The genealogy databases have proved to be a powerful tool for law enforcement to solve cases that have been cold for years. I am thankful we are finally able to bring closure to Herman Brown's family and friends. While the family could not reclaim their loved one, the arrest offered them a form of closure, a step towards healing, and the knowledge that the wheels of justice turned in their favor. After 2 decades of uncertainty and relentless pursuit of justice, the tragic chapter surrounding Herman Brown's death has seen the dawn of a new day. It stands as a testament to the unwavering dedication of our law enforcement agencies, who refuse to let time erode their determination. The collaborative efforts of detectives and forensic experts, fueled by their resolve and armed with the latest advancements in science, have breathed fresh hope into a case that had long seemed entwined with the past. The unfolding developments in this case serve as more than just a resolution. They are a beacon of hope for countless other unsolved mysteries. They remind us that justice, no matter how much it may have been delayed, remains within our grasp. Do you think this case could inspire new breakthroughs in other unsolved cases? What do you think about the role of modern DNA technology in solving cold cases? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. A cold case murder that happened more than 30 years ago, the Sacramento County District Attorney now saying DNA evidence found under the victim's fingernails have led to their suspect. On May 23, 1988, a quiet suburban community in Galt, California was shaken by a tragic incident. The lifeless body of 79-year-old Lucille Hultgren was found in her home by 2 concerned friends, who became worried when she failed to attend church, something she rarely missed. The investigators tried everything to bring her perpetrator to justice, but despite their relentless efforts, the case remained unsolved for an agonizing 34 years. As we get into the details of this case, we are left with 2 pressing questions. What could have been the motive of the perpetrator in killing an elderly woman like Hultgren? What would have been the key advancements in DNA technology that ultimately helped solve the case after 34 years? Our case takes us to Galt, a small city situated in Sacramento County, California. It is the kind of place often described as the epitome of safe and family-friendly living. This charming town is known for its welcoming, sports-friendly neighborhoods, where children play in the streets, and everyone seems to know their neighbors. Violent crime is a rarity, and peace prevails in this close-knit community. However, this peace was shattered by the death of Hultgren, who was inhumanely murdered in May of 1988. Strikingly, this still remains the only cold case murder in Galt. Lucille Hultgren, born in 1909 in Ohio, lived a life that left a deep mark on the hearts of those who knew her. While her early life and details about her parents remain unknown, what is abundantly clear is that she embodied qualities of remarkable bravery, unwavering religious devotion, and boundless love. In her later years, Lucille found love and companionship with Frank Hultgren Sr., and they shared a peaceful life together. The couple's journey eventually led them to Galt, California in 1963, where they settled into the welcoming community. It was in Galt that they would nurture their family, raising 2 sons, Frank and Henry. Lucille's presence in Galt was nothing short of a blessing to her neighbors and fellow parishioners. She was known for her warm and kind-hearted nature, always ready to open her home to the neighborhood kids, inviting them in for cookies and lemonade during the summertime. Her husband's passing due to Alzheimer's in 1987 left a void, but her resilience and unceasing kindness continued to shine through. "She was just very super sweet," said Jacobs, a neighbor. Her strong ties to her local church community, her role as a loving mother, and her unwavering sweetness endeared her to all who knew her. The fact that she did not attend church on the weekend following her birthday was a cause for concern among her fellow parishioners, who considered her a cherished member of their church family. On Friday, May 20th, 1988, Lucille marked her 79th birthday, surrounded by friends who came to celebrate this special day with her. Little did they know that this would be the last time they would see her alive. Lucille was a devoted member of her church, and attending the weekend services was a significant part of her life. As the weekend rolled around, Lucille did not make her usual appearance at the church. Her absence became a cause of concern among her friends. It was out of this growing worry that 2 of her friends decided to pay her a visit at her residence on Poplar Street. They made their way to her home on Monday, the 23rd of May. Upon arrival, they noticed something unusual. The side door was unsecured. They passed through and encountered a horrifying and tragic sight. Their beloved Lucille lay lifeless. From her appearance, it looked like she had been subject to an assault, stabbed, strangled, and left for dead. Lucille's friends immediately called 911. Upon receiving the distressing call, Galt police swiftly arrived at Lucille's home. The scene they encountered was a grim one. Detective Matthews reported that it was evident that Lucille had been the victim of a stabbing. However, the exact cause of death was yet to be determined, and an autopsy was scheduled to provide more clarity. Matthews emphasized that, despite the lack of an autopsy report at the moment, the case was undeniably a homicide. What added to the mystery was the lack of any apparent motive for the crime. Nothing appeared to have been stolen from Lucille's 1-bedroom home, and the residence remained impeccably tidy. Because of this, the robbery was ruled out as a possible incentive for the murder. In response to this heinous crime, the Galt Police Department initiated a full-scale investigation, dedicating 3 officers to the case in a relentless pursuit of the perpetrator. They explored various leads, even questioning a tool company that had recently visited Lucille's house to construct a shed, suspecting a potential connection to the murder. The Sacramento County Sheriff's Office Crime Scene Investigation Unit also joined the pursuit, gathering all the evidence they could from the scene in the hope that it would yield a critical clue in unraveling the murder's mystery. Regrettably, investigators found themselves at a loss when it came to identifying anyone who might have harbored ill intentions towards Lucille. Leads began to run dry, and as time passed, the case gradually grew colder. In fact, it became the sole unsolved case on Galt's records, leaving the community in a state of shock and apprehension. For the following 3 decades, the case remained shrouded in mystery, defying the best efforts of traditional investigative techniques. Even previous attempts to utilize DNA analysis failed to crack Galt's only unsolved cold case. The turning point occurred in 2021, when a retired detective happened to mention the long-forgotten murder to Sacramento County District Attorney Anne Marie Schubert. Intrigued by the cold case, Schubert authorized its re-examination, leveraging the modern forensic techniques that were not available in 1988. This re-examination unveiled a remarkable breakthrough. It turned out that the crime scene technicians from years past had retained a crucial piece of evidence: Lucille's fingernail clippings, hidden away in an evidence locker. These clippings held the key to the case. Lucille, in her brave struggle for survival, had unwittingly preserved DNA evidence beneath her nails. The investigative team did not stop there. They scrutinized various pieces of evidence, including a pillow that had been placed over her head during the fatal attack. However, it was the DNA beneath the fingernails that paid off and yielded a match. It was a suspect already known to the police in San Joaquin County, ultimately shedding light on the identity of Lucille's long, elusive killer. His name was Terry Leroy Bramble. Terry Leroy was born on July 18, 1956, in St. Joseph, Missouri, to parents Fred and Lula Bramble. Not much is known about his early life and family background, apart from the fact that he had a brother named William who died in infancy. In the later years of his life, Terry worked at several places, including Mumber Pipe Company, Mueller Supply Co-Diamond Walnut, and the Galt Arno and Lodi Memorial Cemeteries, where he served as a groundskeeper. In 1992, he was involved in a physical assault conviction in San Joaquin County, which led to his registration as a sex offender. This conviction would later prove to be extremely crucial in this case. In later years, Terry lived as a homeless transient individual, residing under a bridge along Highway 99 in Galt. The police didn't suspect Bramble as a suspect before, but the tiny DNA sample on the fingernail clippings changed everything. You see, Bramble's DNA was already on record because of a 1992 assault conviction in San Joaquin County. It was thanks to this previous case that officials managed to identify him as the suspect in the murder of Lucille. Later, it was confirmed that Bramble committed the heinous acts of assault, stabbing, and strangulation that tragically ended Lucille's life. The police did not know why he did it, but they began looking to see if Bramble might be connected to other unsolved cases in the area. It was found that he was around 32 at the time when he committed this heinous act. Regrettably, justice could not be served, as he passed away on October 2nd, 2011, at the age of 55, due to heart complications. Lucille Hultgren was survived by her two sons. Her son, Frank Jr., passed away in 2008. The other son, Henry, is now about the same age as his mother at the time of her tragic murder. When he learned about the case being solved, he mentioned that, "I wish the man was still alive to face the consequences. I wish my older brother was still alive to hear the news." He mentioned about his mother saying, "Mom was my champion. I was the baby of the family, and I miss her to this very day." For more than 33 years, Lucille Hultgren's family had been carrying the weight of this unsolved case. Finally, with the identification of the suspect, they did get some sort of closure. Sacramento County District Attorney Anne Marie Schubert emphasized the significance of this development. She said, "Lucille Hultgren was a mother, a wife, a 79-year-old woman who lived her life with dignity until it was taken away. That is what this case is about, the pursuit of justice for almost 34 years. The fingernail scrapings played a crucial role in bringing this long-pending case to a resolution." The questions that Lucille's family had been searching for had finally been answered. It brought some sort of closure to a 33-year-old mystery. While time may have taken away the opportunity for the perpetrator to face justice, it can't erase the memory of a loving mother, wife, and the enduring impact she left on her family. The pursuit of truth and justice, even after all these years, serves as a testament to the unwavering commitment of those who sought to bring closure to this case. Lucille Hultgren's legacy lives on, and her family can now take a step towards healing and finding the peace they've been seeking for so long. As the case of Lucille Hultgren's murder finds some closure after more than 3 decades, we reflect on the emotions that this revelation stirs. Such cases remind us of the complexities and challenges in solving cold cases, and highlights the importance of advancements in forensic technology. It also emphasizes the need for justice and closure for the victims' families and the community. Now let's hear what you make of this case. What do you think about the role that advancements in forensic technology have played in solving long-standing cold cases like this one? How would you describe the significance of bringing closure to such cases for the victims' families when the perpetrator is no longer alive? We begin tonight with that major break in a 30-year-old cold case that started in Pasco County and ended tonight in Hernando County. 12-year-old Jennifer Odom was last seen getting off her school bus at the end of the day back in 1993. New tonight, more than 30 years later, police have arrested the man who they say is responsible for her kidnapping and murder. Jennifer Odom was a 12-year-old girl who went missing on the afternoon of February 19, 1993, after coming back from her school on a bus in the Tampa area in Florida. Her disappearance sent shockwaves through her community, leaving her family in agony. Despite intensive searches and investigations, the case went cold, and the identity of the abductor remained a mystery. Extensive research and investigations were launched to uncover the truth behind Jennifer Odom's disappearance. Finally, after 30 years, they figured it out and found the culprit. As we get into the details of this mystery, we wonder, How did a young girl disappear so close to her home in broad daylight? What factors contributed to locating Jennifer's murderer after 30 years? Stick with us to find out. This case takes us to Tampa, Florida, situated along Florida's Gulf Coast. Tampa is a vibrant city known for its cultural diversity, tropical climate, and wide range of activities. Do you know violent crimes in Tampa are 34% higher than the national average? However, in 1993, this tight-knit community was shaken to its core when a 12-year-old resident was tragically abducted, leaving an enduring mark on this place. Jennifer Odom was born on August 25, 1980. She was the eldest daughter of Clark and Renee Converse. She also had a 9-year-old sister named Jessica Ann Odom. She loved playing the clarinet and often competed in barefoot water skiing events. Jennifer and Jessica had a rabbit called Beanie. Jennifer also absolutely loved her Springer Spaniel Gypsy. The two sisters spent summer days swimming in the creek behind their house, riding four-wheelers and building forts. She was well liked by people who knew her at school, and she had a friend named Jessica Floyd. Jennifer and Jessica were in 7th grade together. She remembered Jennifer as a fun-loving girl. She mentioned, "We attended middle school and primary school together, and she was a buddy of mine. She was my friend. We went all through elementary school and to middle school together, Girl Scouts together, camping trips. She's just a really fun girl. You don't think this day's ever going to come. You hope. You really hope. So it's fresh. It's just still fresh." Jennifer Odom was full of life, with a bright future ahead. But tragically, fate had other plans for her. February 19, 1993 was just another routine day for Jennifer Odom. In the afternoon, around 3 p.m., she got off her school bus. But after that, no one knows what happened. She disappeared. Her bus stop was really close to her home, only about 200 yards away. At about 4 p.m., Jennifer's sister arrived at their home from school to find it locked and unable to enter. She then called their mother to tell her that her big sister was not home yet. Renee Converse then realized Jennifer must not have made it home. She called Jennifer's best friend Michelle, who stated that she saw Jennifer exit the bus and begin walking home. Jennifer's mother knew something was very wrong, and she called the police. Children riding the school bus with Jennifer remembered seeing an older light blue unknown model pickup truck slowly following Jennifer down the road in the direction in which she was walking. After 6 days, her dead body, with no clothes on, was discovered along a horse trail in Hernando County, which was 10 miles from where she got off the bus. She was kidnapped and heartlessly murdered. Despite being so near to her home, she never made it back, and tragically, she was never seen again. The police set off a frantic search effort. Within hours, deputies launched a wide-scale search party of about 400 volunteers to help scour about 60 square miles of countryside. Family, friends, neighbors, and other volunteers desperately searched for Jennifer. Law enforcement was equipped with police dogs to fine-comb the rolling groves, pastures, and woods surrounding the tiny Pasco County town of Dade City. Reportedly, some of her classmates saw a blue truck around town, and every law enforcement agency in the Bay Area went looking for it. 6 days after Jennifer vanished on Thursday, February 25th, A man and a woman searching an abandoned orange grove, about 10 miles north of Jennifer's school bus stop, found her badly decomposed and unclothed body. Her body was discovered in the orange grove, next to a horse route off Powell Road, south of Brooksville, among a stand of pine trees. The investigator stated that she most likely passed away in the woods, not long after she vanished, because she was found to have been attacked and had blunt force injuries to her skull. Hernando County Sheriff Al Nianhuis stated, "Although we are not quite sure when the incident occurred, or how long her kidnapper held her hostage, we are rather certain that it did occur in that field." The investigation into Jennifer's murder had been ongoing for 3 decades, but no one had ever been charged with the crime. Over the years, there had been several leads and suspects, but none had panned out. The case had been featured on several true crime shows and podcasts, but still, no one had been brought to justice for many years. The Jennifer Odom case remained unsolved for many decades, despite the best efforts of traditional investigative techniques. In 2015, Sheriff Al Nianhuis, the person in charge of the investigation, said that after looking for clues for a long time, they found a big piece of information. They uncovered some evidence from a crime scene where a different adolescent had been severely beaten and injured. This occurred around 13 months before Jennifer's passing. For the past 3 decades, the focus of the inquiry has been the blue truck, and the authorities believe the driver may have been involved in the kidnapping. They used a technique known as DNA analysis in 2015. The DNA test indicated that the primary suspect in that case was a 61-year-old man by the name of Jeffrey Norman Crum. The man's possible connection to the earlier crime was suggested by this discovery, which was a significant advancement in the inquiry and brought them one step closer to solving the mystery. The Hernando County Sheriff's Office turned in more than 75,000 pieces of evidence. And as new technology was developed, the evidence was subjected to additional testing. Researchers looked over thousands of leads as well. As per Sheriff Nianhuis, a full DNA profile was provided to investigators in 2015, after testing of biological evidence in Pasco County. CODIS, the national DNA database, was then used to process the DNA. Once they found a match between the DNA and Crum, he was arrested in February of 2015 for the attack that happened in 1992. State Attorney Bill Gladson said, "When we look at a case, especially one this important, we always want to be absolutely sure we've got the right person." After the kidnapping and murder of 12-year-old Jennifer Odom, detectives say they have the man who did it. The Hernando County Sheriff just wrapped up a news conference where he identified the suspect. Fox 13's Aaron Nesmore is outside the county courthouse live with details. Aaron. Yeah, man, I mean, this is the news that this community and certainly Jennifer Odom's family have been waiting for decades. For now, detectives aren't really getting into all of the details at this point about what led them to this particular man as their suspect, as their main suspect in this case. But they are confident 61-year-old Jeffrey Crum is the person who abducted and killed 12-year-old Jennifer Odom back in 1993. In the event of an appeal, we also want to make sure we have sufficient evidence to prove the defendant's guilt in court, not just during the trial. This should be handled as a capital case because we think we have the right person and compelling evidence. In each instance, both teenagers suffered physical abuse. Since the two attacks' circumstances were almost identical, Crum was immediately the prime suspect in the investigation against Jennifer Odom. Jeffrey Norman Crum was a 61-year-old American man from Holiday, Pasco County, Florida, in the United States. He had a criminal history that included robbery, assault and battery, and kidnapping. Jeffrey was a convicted sex offender. He was already serving 2 life sentences for assault and battery and attempted murder in a 1993 case involving a 12-year-old girl. Crum was identified as a suspect in Jennifer Odom's case after investigators used DNA analysis to narrow him down as a suspect in a similar case that occurred about 13 months before Odom's murder. In that incident, a teenage girl was attacked and assaulted after alighting from a school bus in Pasco County, but miraculously survived. The strikingly similar circumstances between these 2 attacks quickly made Crum the prime suspect in Jennifer Odom's case. Crum was arrested in 2023 after a DNA test. He was indicted by a Florida grand jury on charges of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and assault and battery in the February 1993 death of Jennifer Odom. Crum's criminal history was marked by violent crimes, such as a Hillsborough County robbery from 1981 and an assault and battery case from 1985. Hernando County Sheriff Alnian Huis during a press conference said that Crum is a bad guy. This is a bad guy who is very violent, who enjoyed violence and enjoyed hurting people, particularly women. This isn't a parent's nightmare. This is a community nightmare. This is law enforcement's worst nightmare. So he quickly, almost instantaneously became our #1 suspect in the Jennifer Odom case. Crum made his first court appearance in Jennifer's case on Thursday and had little to say. Do you plan to represent yourself? Do you plan to hire private counsel? Would you like the public defender? I'll appoint the PD. I think every one of us, and especially those in law enforcement, can look at Jennifer as our sister, our niece, our granddaughter, and realize that, man, that is a tragedy beyond tragedies. And now, all these years later, a community is finally breathing a sigh of relief. I can't express the magnitude of the closure that this brings to her family, her friends, and to this community and the communities around Florida and around this country. Crum is now in jail in Hernando County, without the chance to be released before trial. If found guilty, he could receive the death penalty. Jeffrey Norman Crum was indicted by a grand jury on counts of first-degree murder, kidnapping, assault, and battery in the February 1993 death of Jennifer Odom, marking a significant occasion for Hernando County, Florida. The death penalty was granted in this case, and the prosecution declared they would pursue the death penalty in this instance. And based on the content of those tips, we are 100% positive that there are individuals out there that have more information about the Jennifer Odom abduction and murder. The suspect faced the evidence against him, which included DNA evidence and prior criminal history, in an exciting court case. A long-standing mystery was resolved with the conviction of Jeffrey Norman Crum for Jennifer's murder, kidnapping, and sexual battery. This also shows how dedicated law enforcement is to resolving cases to keep their communities safe and solve these cold cases. The utilization of advanced DNA testing technology, as well as modern forensic techniques, played an important role in solving the case and bringing Crum to justice. The case against Crum shows the power of collaboration, determination, and the unwavering pursuit of justice that fuels the work of law enforcement agencies. With Jennifer's case solved, the community rallied once again, this time to honor Jennifer's memory. A memorial was erected in her name, serving as a reminder of the strength as well as resilience of a community that refused to forget one of their own. The Odom family finally found the closure they had waited for, knowing that justice had been served. Their tireless advocacy had not been in vain. As the case of Jennifer Odom's murder finds some closure after more than 3 decades, we reflect on the emotions that this revelation stirs. Cases like these show us that solving cold cases can be very hard, and they make us realize how important it is to use new technology to help solve them. It also emphasizes the need for justice and closure for the victims' families and community. Now let's hear what you make of this case. What do you think about the role that advancements in forensic technology have played in solving long-standing cold cases like this one?